Lieutenant Commander Savant's personal log, stardate 74799.87. The Hope is currently en route to Hyralan 4 to make first contact with the inhabitants there. The Hyralans have been on Starfleet's radar ever since their successful launch of a warp capable vessel a few months ago. What we know of the Hyralans is both impressive and concerning. They've gone from what would be the equivalent of the Terran industrial era to a functional warp engine in a matter of 30 years. And more baffling is the fact that instead of the planet uniting behind the warp engine, they are currently split into 40 distinct factions, all in sort of a civil or world war. Something tells me that there's an external influence here, much like there has to be one with the Klingons and their new cloaking devices. In other news, everyone is still talking about the victory at Starbase 234. The Klingon advance has been paused, and the front lines sector wide have been quiet. Ra Yelix is currently leading a small engineering away team back at 234 to survey the damaged ships and see what can be done in terms of salvage and repair. End log.
And for our first scene, we move to the conference room. In the conference room, everyone is present currently except for Rayelix, who is leading that team pretty much on the other side of the sector. But yeah, turning it over to you, Scotty. The ship is entering the system, the Hyralan planet. Actually, you guys are moving into orbit, and just outside the windows, you can see the blue planet. There's really not much else going on in this system, but the planet does have 2 moons, but presently you can only see the planet.
Well, everybody, coming off our victory at 234, it's nice to get back to our, well, normal Starfleet duties. And what better way of doing that with a first contact? Commander, I believe you have some information to share.
I have quite a bit. Where would you like me to begin?
Wherever you would like.
Well, I'll start with the elevator pitch, as it were. I can tell you the planet is Class M, but in a growing list of oddities, it doesn't appear to have any vegetation or fauna. And unlike Earth, which is about 70% water, this planet is about 70% landmass. And even the ocean is mostly lifeless as well. Yet somehow the Hyralans, there's 2 billion of them. And the temperature of the planet is also baffling. It's pretty much a standard 71 degrees Fahrenheit across the entire planet, which again, it just something does not sit right to me about this planet. Um, but I digress. We know all this because a orbital scan from the USS Galen occurred about 10 years ago. In the captain's log, they noted that the Hyralans were remarkably intelligent, but also rather aggressive. Other than that, we don't really know a whole lot about them. The Galen decided at the time that the Hyralans were too hostile to risk sending down an away team. So what we know of them is from sort of orbit only and what we were able to track of their warp flight.
Interesting. The point that it's Class M, but still no flora or fauna, makes me wonder whether these people were rather placed here than advanced here themselves.
That's my thought as well, sir, especially given the fact that they literally went from industrial era technology to a functional warp engine in the span of 30 years. To be frank, I don't think that can happen. Like I'm a firm believer of innovation and cultures coming together and, uplifting themselves, but 30 years is not enough time.
Not at all. It's almost as if these are somebody's experiments.
Unfortunately, that may be the case, sir.
And TM turns to you, Edon, and he says, Edon, well, forgive me, I should say Captain, first of all. Congratulations.
Thank you. It's been interesting getting used to the new title. So much so that I forgot to do it on Discord.
My first concern is This planet is fairly heavily armed. The Galen, as Commander Sylvanth told us, did not send an away team down to the planet because they were worried about the hostility of the natives. In fact, on my initial scan, there are several satellites in orbit, and not just satellites for communication purposes, but weapons satellites.
That's concerning.
Now, from what
Any
I can
other
tell, they're pointed
tactical-
towards the planet. They're not expecting visitors, but with our shields up, I don't think they'd be a problem, but we should just be aware.
I don't know whether that is a relief for me or rather a concern that the platforms are pointed at the planet. Almost as if reminds me a lot of the Earth history around the Cold War. Do we have biometric data on the Hyralans?
GM Josh, it does not say whether or not we did get any in the handout.
Yeah, you would. I can give you guys just a basic rundown of what the Hyralans are. They have multiple genders, in fact, many, to the point to where it's almost extremely confusing. They are roughly humanoid. They have a few very uncharacteristic humanoid traits in that they have multiple pairs of eyes. Lots of information about their culture hasn't been able to be gleaned. It's known that there is a consistent religion across the planet. It's one religion, but that religion has kind of descended into taboo over the last few years, at least since the Galen monitored the planet. Physiologically, they seem to inhabit a Class M planet just fine. Like, they don't need any sort of extra atmospheric, things or breathing systems or anything like that.
Well, that's good. Although, judging by some of the data I'm looking at on this pad, there's no centralized government.
That is correct, sir. In fact, the location of the warp-capable ship, it's currently parked in a hangar bay in a secure facility in one of the larger cities, and that city is controlled by the most dominant faction on the planet.
That'll be quite interesting to come into. We don't want to cause civil unrest on a planet by visiting.
As I said earlier, sir, there's 40 factions already in a world war. I honestly don't think we could make things worse.
Well, and with any luck, we could possibly make things better. This will be my first contact mission. I'm a little nervous, to say the least.
If I may offer a suggestion, sir.
By all means.
I once read a memoir by a Captain Tahan and a Captain Skull. Both of them highlighted a very important need to not eat any food offered to you or drink.
I will take that to heart. There's one final matter here. I wish we could do it more in a formal ceremony, although current times don't make that possible. With the events at 234, I have some honors that Starfleet would like to give out to each of you, as well as a few others of note that assisted on the Hope during the attack. And Tuzon will pass out medals to everybody. Commander Sophanth, for you, the Christopher Pike Medal of Valor.
I'm honored, thank you.
For Naval and Waltz, you, as well as Tiem, are going to get the Carnagite Order of Heroism. Monty, go ahead.
TM and Naval both kind of respond in their own ways. TM, I think, is very taken aback and looks at you. Thank you, Edon. That's very flattering. And Naval just kind of silently nods.
Monty, you and I will give Roy Alex his when he gets back, but you two, for your detection grid that you attempted to make, and seem to have gotten at least some good results, the Cochrane Medal of Excellence.
Thank you, sir.
And I realize that 8 is not here, but she will be getting the Grand Kite Order of Tactics as well. We did very well in that battle. Hopefully, that's the last time we see battle for a little bit.
And at the end of the table, Naval sort of raises a hand.
Yes, Naval?
Captain, I know our current mission is to deal with a planet, so I won't take any more time away from that. However, I did put together a small report on findings that I noticed in the battle at Starbase 234 that I think should, at least require some attention.
Please, by all means, share your findings. I'm intrigued to hear what you have to say.
Well, for the most part, the captain's plan went without a hitch. We were able to lure in the Klingon forces, and of course the Klingons took overwhelming casualties. The part of the battle that draws the most, at least of my interest, was near the end when Federation forces were beginning to pull away from the starbase. It's unlikely the Klingons were able to detect what was coming at them. However, in many cases, the Klingons engaged in suicidal attacks against the Starfleet vessels that were trying to flee. And those Klingon vessels in question were not critically damaged. It was a very unusual pattern from Klingon vessels, unlike anything that we've ever seen before from them.
You would be correct. That is not a typical maneuver that we see from Klingons.
Of course, when the odds are against them and the Klingons, at least in past conflicts, have been on the losing side, they will typically behave in a way similar to this. However, in this situation, the Klingons, at least up until that point, were the fight was fairly even. There was no reason for the Klingons to be throwing themselves in such a suicidal way against the Starfleet forces. It's just something that stood out to me as very unusual, considering if you look at their other tactics in the past.
You would be correct. Let's gather up all the information you have and transmit that to the Commodore. With that kind of information, we should make that known because it's something to look out for. It seems almost as if they're taking some notes from Dominion, from that war.
Indeed, they were decidedly Jim Haddard tactics.
All right. Well, we'll have to keep that in mind. But for now, let's look ahead at a first contact, shall we?
Well, sir, how do you want to play this? Are we going to be hailing them? Are we going to be beaming down? How would you like to proceed?
Let's take one of the the support ships out. We don't get to use them quite as much, and I feel like beaming down might be a little bit over their heads when it comes to technology, and we don't want to provoke them any more than what we're going to.
Very good, sir. Since this is first contact, I believe we can eschew the normal rules. If you wish to lead the away mission yourself, I will remain here on the ship.
I'd like to take the away mission, but you seem to be prepared with all the information that we need as well.
No, honestly, sir, it is kind of my job as first officer to have such materials ready for you. Be a very poor first officer if I was not fully prepared.
Well, I guess that's true. All right, I will take charge of the away mission. I can't wait to see what happens. We'll keep open communications in case we need some assistance.
Very good, sir. Shall we remain at the edge of the system, or should we approach the planet and try to find a blind spot, perhaps over the poles of the planet?
Either over the poles of the planet or the poles of the moon. I feel like being a little closer would be a little bit more beneficial in case we have to emergency take out.
Very good. Safan scrolls through her pad and then frowns and looks over at Tiem. Mr. Tiem, you neglected to mention that there are literal warheads in orbit. Or perhaps I did not hear you say so. Do
None
you
of the
think they could pose a threat to the shuttle you would be taking?
I don't think any of those would be a risk to the Hope, but for a shuttle, definitely. I'm not sure of their tracking capabilities. It seems as though they are designed to target ground locations, so a fast moving object like a shuttle might be able to evade them. But most of them, from what I can tell, are atomic in nature, and I can't say for certain that a shuttle would be safe against one of those.
I just sort of look to the captain. Well, it's your call, sir.
Well, the question becomes, does our pilot think that they can go get through it?
It would depend on how they track emissions from stellar objects. If they are able to detect us, then we will have to test to see the yield of their capabilities against our shields. I believe it would be best to possibly establish first contact through communication to every nation and in hopes that they allow us to land.
Actually, as good of a suggestion that sounds like on paper, Mr. Montgomery, I would actually strongly advise against contacting all factions at once. Mostly because, if I understand the Hyralans properly, from what we know, if we contact just the dominant one, I'll break it down. If we contact just the dominant one, then what's going to happen more than likely is the society, the other 39 factions, could potentially rally against this one dominant faction. We don't want that to happen. But what we also don't want to do is contact every faction and then suddenly they are actively trying to sabotage or take out the person making first contact.
Without knowing the capabilities of these warheads, I would not advise sending down a shuttle.
Well, what's the alternative then, Mr. Montgomery? Are you suggesting that we beam up 40 representatives and have I guess you would call it a diplomatic meeting in a mess hall somewhere?
That sounds intriguing and chaotic at the same time.
I mean, if that's what you would like to do, Captain, I can throw something together, but I would need at least a few hours.
We could attempt to send a probe and see how far we can make it. Make it send out the typical signature of a shuttlecraft and see if any of these warheads lock on. The negative to this test, though, would be if one of these warheads were to detonate, it may spark another conflict.
Right. I don't think we want to be testing their defenses when the test of the defense could actually lead to an all-out attack.
And at the same time, if we were to send down a shuttle and were attacked by one of these warheads, we risk the crew of the shuttle, including the captain.
What if we sent out a probe with a general message of greeting to emit across the planet and see who responds? Of those that respond, we can hopefully arrange a peaceful meeting with representatives for each, either on the planet at a neutral ground that they choose or here as a neutral ground.
I think that could work quite well, sir.
Then let's go with that idea.
And I think if there's nothing else to discuss, I'll move you guys to the next scene onto the bridge, where you can start working together on this plan. I think since you're staying put, Tuzan, I'm gonna throw you back in the scene here.
Ah, Zyvor.
Is Zyvor here, or is he just
I threw him on there because I like the idea of a Tholian science officer so much.
Okay. Just wanted to be sure before I started doing the voice.
Zyvor's here. Monday is here. Montgomery. All the fun voices.
Mhm.
But yeah, Sophanth, you guys also haven't gotten a chance to take a good scan of the planet. You're now in range to do that. What you were acting on before was just old information from the Galen. Now, not too old, but not necessarily the most current information.
After we send the probe, we can scan the planet to see what kind of infrastructure they have.
Run it at me again. What all the probe is going to do?
I guess it would be just the probe would be sending down the communication, just kind of a general greeting, who we are, and we'd like to meet with representatives.
Okay.
But after we send the probe, we can do a scan of the planet from the ship and get up-to-date data.
Let's maybe have Zyvor or Sophanth launch the probe, because I want to start getting you guys some momentum. Let's do a control science difficulty of 0, and the ship can assist. Let's do a sensor science assist.
All right. I actually think if you'll allow it, I will assist Zyvor with advisor.
That sounds good to me.
All right. So since Zyvor is being activated, he gets a talent. I'll figure that out later, but it is a control science. He does have a focus. Survey says. All right, off to a good start. Would you say presence science for the Sophanth assist?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Don't really have a focus here. All right, no help from Sophanth. Monty, you want to get the ship or?
Sensor science.
Sensor science? Okay. My mouse being so weird.
Wow, just look at those rolls. 16, 18, and 18.
It's all right.
Wow.
Difficulty 0, you guys accomplished it. So what happens is the probe launches, of course. It heads towards the atmosphere of the planet. It begins transmitting. It gets to the more like the upper parts of the atmosphere. And I'm going to create a complication here.
Ooh.
Fight and roll 20, one moment. And the complication is as the probe enters the upper atmosphere, it's transmitting the entire time. One of the orbital platforms turns towards it and fires a laser weapon at it and destroys it.
Hold on, I want to make sure I heard correctly. You said laser, not phaser.
Yes, laser.
Okay.
TM turns around. That's new.
Indeed. Apparently they've developed laser technology, although not seemingly a threat to the ship.
No, our shields could easily... that weapon, I've managed to scan the yield, is of no danger to the ship.
All right, well, let's get a scan of the planet and see what other interesting secrets they might be hiding.
Well,
as you're
Mr.
starting-
Zyvor, do your best.
And as Zyvor is starting to do that, as many arms are typing on the console, 8 turns to you, Tuzan. Captain, we're getting lots of hails.
Lots
I've
of
got
hails.
23 different communications coming in from various parts of the planet.
Can you open all but without any video just for me to communicate?
Well, there's only one that actually has video. It's from this planet. She throws it up on the main viewer. And coincidentally, it's the same city that is holding the warp ship. This planet
Okay.
in particular, the person in contact with us is calling themselves the Monarch. They're the only ones communicating with video. The rest are various forms of audio of different quality.
Let's open a channel for me to communicate out to all of them.
And he says, okay, this will take me just a minute. Zyvor, if you want to do that scan. So first of all, tell me, what are you looking for?
Just
Well,
go
ahead.
I was just thinking general up-to-date information on what they have, technology, possibly weapons, just so we know what we're going into.
Why don't we do a reason science for Zyvor difficulty 0 and then a sensor science assist from the ship, and all your successes you can spend on asking me questions.
Very good. I think no, Sophanth is definitely not geared as much as I would like towards that. So yeah, let's see what happens with Mr. Zyvor. You said it's difficulty what, 0 still?
0, yeah.
What do you guys think of me spending that momentum for the potential of additional dice? Because Zyvor's reason science is in the 15 total.
Yeah, I figured you were going to do that.
Okay. Let's see what happens. All right. Well, hey, there's 3 successes.
And one get 3.
And then
Okay.
Monty, do you still have the ship there?
What's the ship is? Sensor science again?
Yeah, sensor
Yep.
science. Hey, very
Hey,
good.
4.
Hey.
Ask away.
So first thing Zyvor wants to know is in terms of defenses of this central city or this main city, quote unquote. Do they also have lasers? Do they have any shielding? You know, what is the average sort of armament that they would have?
So the city, the main city that you're looking at, the one that's holding the warp ship, is probably by far the most technologically advanced city of the others that you're detecting. It does have laser weapons. It does have some primitive shields around the planet itself, which are actually not active right now. It does also have some spatial torpedoes that it could launch, and other weaponry of at least core of that grade. If you're thinking NX level technology as far as weapons go, then that's kind of where they're at.
Okay.
NX or maybe a little pre-NX.
Actually, maybe a little bit later with lasers. Even though they said phasers in Enterprise, they said lasers in the Cage. So I'm going to say lasers are probably somewhere between phase weapons and phasers. At least that's what I think.
Yeah, makes sense. So Zyvor reports all this and says, well, sure, it appears that they have roughly NX level technology. It's very strange. They're the only ones on the planet with such. But I'm not detecting anything that would suggest how they've acquired or are maintaining any of this technology. There should be perhaps some form of factory or processing plant, but I'm not seeing any of that.
Well, that is very strange. You would think that they would have production facilities.
Now,
And
Zevor, you
then-
have more questions, yeah, if you want to ask them, or you can keep the momentum.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. What is a good next question?
I was just going to ask, do they have internet?
I mean, they probably have some form of global communication network, but no, you're not going to do I'm an alien, ask me anything. No, don't you dare. What would you guys think about spending momentum to ask the question, are they all the same species?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then yeah, let's spend the 1 momentum to ask the question, are they the same species? Or is this simply something like
Zindi.
Zindi? Yeah, I was trying to remember. Yeah, if this is more like a Zindi sort of thing.
From what you can tell from orbit, which you can get a lot more information if you actually have them in a sick bay and you run a medical tricorder at them. But from what you can tell from orbit, they appear to all be the same species. Now, of course, there are many genders in this in the Hyralan species, so they are very different in appearance sometimes and stature, but they do all appear to be the same species. And in fact, if you're scanning the leading city and you're scanning like the next leading opposing city, it's really hard to tell the difference between the populations.
Hmm. And if this is part of that question, if you allow it, how many Hyralans are there now? Because I think before the Galen said there were what, 2 billion?
They're still roughly around 2 billion.
So that the population hasn't changed much.
If the population has changed from the world war that's happening, it seems to have replenished itself, at least since the Galen last took a reading.
Okay. Then Zyvor, of course, communicates all this and adds, that's another strange thing, sure. Apparently, their population has not grown. That doesn't quite add up with what we know of anthropology. They should have grown at least somewhat. 10 years, even with a war, should be 3-4 billion of them.
So there could be external factors keeping their numbers at bay.
And so Fonth kind of nods at this and says, yes, Captain. At this point, I'm honestly thinking the planet is more like a petri dish that is being carefully regulated by some outside laboratory experiment.
Zyvor,
Yes, sure.
could you do a system scan of the planetary system? See if you find any strange energy readings.
Out of character, you're basically looking to see if like there's Klingon or Romulan or Cardassian, things that wouldn't belong at an
Right,
NX level.
right. Just random things in the system that don't make sense. Like, oh, there's a random power reading from over here that shouldn't be there.
Yeah, I think that's a fair momentum question to ask.
In this case, I'm going to actually make you have to do a roll though, because this is this is a little more than just your average sensor check.
Fair enough.
But then along with that, I'm going to make you do a sensor check. It's a reason science, of course, assist by the ship with the sensor science, but the difficulty here is going to be a 4.
Cool.
4, you say? Okay.
A 4.
Ooh, could I somehow assist as captain? Because I have advisor.
I'd also
Yeah,
let you
both
do
of
a
us have
direct if you
advisor,
wanted
which is
to.
great.
Yeah, you could certainly do a direct if you want to.
I'm thinking, yeah, direct him to do that. And because I, captain level clearance now, I have a lot of knowledge of some of like the power systems and the different things that would be a lot more subtle and to search for. So I'm using some of the new information that we're getting to kind of pinpoint through some of the data.
All right. So let's see. Difficulty of 4. I feel like I really want to pass this, so let's spend the momentum we have remaining. So I'm rolling 4 dice. Reason science. Let's see what I get. All right. Well, there's 3 already.
As Tuzon, what am I rolling for the assist?
So tell me how you're assisting Zyvor. Are you actually doing you're leaning over him while he's typing away and you're like, oh, look at that? Or are you more directing him leadership wise?
I want to say little column A, little column B. Letting him do it, but once as the data is coming in, kind of reviewing it, either at my own station or on a pad or even on the main viewer, and seeing if I'm seeing any of the strange readings that would correspond to like maybe a Klingon signature that they're now finding, or some of the other signatures that are being developed in some of our allies.
So then how about a present science?
Okay, that's not as strong as I would like, but okay. Coordinated effort as a focus
Yeah, I think so.
or research. I have both. Although advisor doesn't come into play now because I'm not using command. That's fine.
Yeah, that's why I asked. It sounds as though you're actually taking more of a hands-on approach as opposed to telling them. But hey, that's the successes you need. If someone wants to roll the ship, it's a sensor science. At this point, it's all just momentum.
And hopefully not a complication.
You just
Well, I
jinxed
pushed.
us. Ooh.
I mean, I pushed the button. Has the roll not gone through? Okay, I'll push it again.
There it
Okay,
goes.
that one went through.
So Zyvor, as you're typing away, and Tuzan, of course, is giving you the directions, you notice that there is actually a low-level psychic field across the entire planet.
You're going to have to be more specific, GM Josh, because when I think of low-level psychic field, I think Warhammer 40K, the warps. You're going to have to be a little more specific.
Okay, so to give you a little more details, if you were an empath or a telepath and you were standing on this planet, you'd have a headache. That sort of thing. But what's unusual is it is an energy field and it is projected across the entire planet. That's very, very unusual. But along with that, you don't detect anything else in the system. Apart from that, the system is pretty boring.
Gang.
So Zyvor, of course, communicates all this, and Sophanth looks at it, says, Zyvor, does this remind... no offense, Zyvor, but does this not remind you of the Tholians in a way? And Zyvor sort of chitters a little bit in a Tholian way and says, well, yes, now that you mention it, it's almost as if they have perhaps a hive mind, but if they do have a hive mind, they have quite the bipolar one. And Sophanth kind of laughs and says, well, not bipolar, whatever the term for 40 different personalities would be.
And I'll give this one to Zyvor for free. Zyvor as a Tholian would know the sort of anatomy required to pull off the way Tholians work. And from what he can tell, that at least, without getting closer, you don't think the Hyralans have the anatomy to do this sort of thing. Like, they don't have any brain development to have psychic capabilities, much less the projection of a planetary psychic field.
A slight amendment, sir. I'm not quite sure the Hyralans are able to even use this psychic field. And Sophanth kind of, paws at the ground a little bit with her hoof and says, so, if I understand you correctly, Mr. Zyvor, you're suggesting that not only is there a psychic field around the planet, but it's not one the Hyralans are controlling. And Zyvor says, yes, sir, that is correct. And at this point, Sophanth is going to do something, but let someone else talk because I actually have to look up what it is I'm looking for.
And 8 turns to you, Tuzan. Captain, I think I've got, through One Hail, a communication to all the different factions. Just bear with me, it's a little fuzzy because some are audio of various levels and some go all the way up to actually video, high quality, almost 3D projection video with that other city. So I think I've managed to take one transmission and split it amongst all of them. So whenever you're ready.
All right. Go ahead and open it.
And she hits a few buttons on her console and she gives you a nod to let you know the channel's open.
I stand up in the middle of the bridge. Greetings, everybody. My name is Captain Tuzan Idon, and I am a representative of the United Federation of Planets. We recently got readings of a successful warp flight from this planet, which opens up the ability for us to begin talk. It is my wish, as the representative of the United Federation of Planets, to be able to meet and talk with representatives from the governments of the planet in a peaceful manner.
And Nate gives you a glance, and she says, I think that went through.
Let's see if any of them respond to that.
And then TM turns to you, Tuzan. Captain, we've got one of those missile platforms turning to target us right now.
Hold off putting shields up yet. And I begin talking into the transmission again. We are not here to fight anybody. We are not here to show favoritism towards any faction, government of the planet. We are here to talk, to share ideas, to open a dialogue to the world that extend far beyond the planetary system you call home.
And from his console, TM hits a few keys, and the ship actually goes to red alert. And then he says, oh, wait, oh. And then he turns off red alert. Okay. Well, one of them launched a nuclear missile at us, but then it was shot down by one of the other satellites. And then they turned one of their satellites onto an area of the planet and attacked it with a laser weapon. And now that satellite is inactive. So I thought we were under attack, but they stopped it. I don't know if they stopped the aggressor also. Now they're launching coordinated laser attacks on that location. Oh, yeah, it's gone.
This is exactly what Sophanth was scared of. GM Josh, I'm going to whisper you something on Discord. I'm going to let you be the judge of whether or not I can scan for it. But everything that we've been told about this planet so far leads me to believe that this is what may be going on.
Sure. Yeah, I think you get scanned for that. There's probably evidence of it. Well, not evidence
Okay.
on the planet necessarily, but evidence of that thing in other places that I think it was the Enterprise encountered that would be a record of.
Yeah, correct. So how would that just be a standard sensor scan or?
Yeah, let's do. Yeah, it doesn't feel like the sort of thing an extended task would cover. I would say let's do a scan, but it's probably going to take you some time because
That's fine.
you're going to be scanning the whole planet that way. So
And
let's cover.
oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Let's cover Tuzan's communication with the folks on the planet, and then we can skip around back to this.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, the reason I brought it up is because I wasn't sure whether or not to interject, like say, Captain, I think so and so might be involved. So I'll wait for the scan.
And 8 turns to you, Tuzan. Sir, I've got someone claiming to be the monarch on communications. I'm not sure which part of the conflict they were involved in, if any at all, but they are the ones with the most advanced communication system. They're coming through pretty clear.
Go ahead and put them on screen.
On the screen appears the Hyralan. Let me stretch it a little bit bigger so you can see. And the Hyralans are a tallish species. They're, actually a little over 2 meters, so they're quite a bit taller than average human height. They have a darkish purple skin, and also what's very unusual about them is they have multiple sets of eyes that glow sort of a whitish purplish glow. Multiple tentacles, of course, on the top of their head. They don't have a discernible mouth or nose, so it's almost impossible to read their expression. But the one standing before you is he's wearing very cleanly cut clothing, and as he appears, he says, "Hello, vessel in orbit. I am the monarch, speaking for the Hyralan entity. Welcome to our planet."
Greetings. I am Captain Tuzan Edon.
It seems as though your transmission brought out one of the other factions, but don't worry, we've eradicated them.
Well, it is our hope not to eradicate anybody, but rather be able to talk openly with all members of the government.
They showed aggression, so of course it was most prudent to destroy them.
We are no strangers to aggression.
You were the first to visit this planet. Might I ask why you are here?
Exactly like what I said in my transmission. We are present in the area, and our sensors picked up on the warp travel of your and when we first register species warp travel, it opens up the door for us to begin communications with that species in a process we call first contact.
Very interesting. Your vessel, from what we can tell, appears to be very advanced. What would you like from the Hyralan entity?
We simply want to talk. We represent the United Federation of Planets, and a key uh, component of the Federation is our members and the differences and unique information and aspects that each of them bring. No one is better than or worse than anyone else. As you can see by looking at the members of my crew in my command, we are all here from different species, serving aboard for a common goal of exploration.
If you wish to learn, there is much my people could teach. I would invite you to visit this planet.
We would like to visit and be able to make acquaintance with you and all of the representatives of the various factions.
There is no need to speak with the other various factions. It is most prudent to speak with the leading representative of this planet, which is me.
Well, the Federation finds it valuable to include all entities. One of our values is diversity and the being able to communicate with everyone.
I understand. However, it seems not very prudent to waste your time communicating with the multitude of members of this planet. I am the one who speaks for all.
I see. One of the requirements for membership in the United Federation of Planets is a unified government with no discrimination and value of all life on the planet. Therefore, when we first make contact with individuals, we like to include everybody.
And someone from off screen hands him like something like a pad, and he looks over it quickly, and he turns his head to the side. My scans have shown that there are potentially systems on your vessel. And he says something in the universal translator. Chews on it for a second, and it comes out as phaser. Do you have more information you can share on how this phaser system works?
In due time, although our weapon systems are not something that we typically share right away without being members.
Yes, of course. That is very prudent of you.
We find it that communicating and advancing a culture too quickly can become devastating to it. Therefore, we do our best not to contaminate the natural progression of a new spacefaring species.
I understand. That does sound very prudent.
We would love to meet with the representatives of not only your government, but also the factions to get to know the culture of your planet.
as I said before, I've extended an invitation to you to meet, and we can discuss the differences of our people. You, of course, are welcome to communicate with the other factions. I think you will find most of them to be very inferior. They will be unable to give you as much information as my faction can. Many of them are stuck in the old ways, believing of the warden and other some such nonsense. But if you have the questions that you at least have said you have, my people and myself in general can answer your questions with much satisfaction.
I look forward to being able to meet with you.
How would you journey to this planet? Would you land your vessel?
We won't be landing our ship. It is much too big for planetary fall. But we do have transport options available.
If you send a smaller vessel, please be sure to let us know. Some of the other factions, as you may have noticed, are a little less welcoming. It's certainly something that we could handle, but you might want to let us know so that we can guarantee your safety.
That is noted. We will be in contact.
Very well. And the communication cuts out.
Monty's just going to swivel around in his seat and look at the captain. How did they recognize phaser technology?
And for
Oh.
that matter, why did they call themselves the Entity? I also didn't like that comment about the warden.
I'm assuming that the warden is a deity of some sort.
That would follow, yes.
What worries me is they were able to identify the phaser technology. If we do go down in a ship, it can't be one with weapons.
I would honestly go so far to say, sir, that it can't be a ship at all. If we let them get within, if we let them get too close to the shuttle, what's the expression? Um, apples to oranges? No. I'm failing to find the proper Earth comparison, sir, but what I'm getting at is we don't want to expose them to technology when, again, they have gone from industrial era to warp drive in 30 years. For all we know, a simple scan could allow them to replicate engines, phasers, warp capabilities that they don't already have off of the shuttle.
I do have one recommendation. It is very difficult and almost nearly impossible to replicate a positronic brain. I could go down there.
Normally, I would agree with you, Mr. Montgomery, but 30
Yeah.
years.
I think I am following the same way, your same thought, Commander. If they've advanced this much and we're able to identify phaser technology this far away through a communication, I don't want to expose them to any kind of technology that they can use to, well, advance themselves prematurely. Unfortunately, that also includes you.
A little side here for out of character. We know that there's a psychic field around the planet, right?
Yes.
We've been. Alright. Monty will just think for a split second. It's like, it would also be advised to send any personnel down to the planet. If there is a psychic field, you could be compromised.
For that matter, as much as it pains me to admit, we can't even send away teams down with tricorders or hand phasers.
Well, looks like we're going old school, everybody.
Second, there's a thought. Mr. Zyvor, the computer has schematics for NX level tricorders, correct? Zyvor sort of turns in the spot and says, yes, sure. Would you like me to replicate them for you? Yes, please. Please replicate some NX level stuff for the away team. At this point, though, GM Josh, I'd like to ask the question: Have I had time to do that scan or not?
Yeah, I think Zyvor could have been working on this while all this discussion has been happening in the background. let's do for him a sensor science, or I'm sorry, a reason science difficulty of 2, and I'm gonna say the ship's assist has already been baked into that difficulty, and we'll just call it a difficulty of 2, so we're not rolling so much.
Okay. I'm actually going to roll this on Sophanth because it's her idea. Zyvor doesn't really know. Let's see. We have no momentum at the moment. I'll give you a threat. I'll give you 1 threat, so I'm rolling 3 dice. And of course, I roll a complication.
So that's not enough. I think I said 2 successes is what you needed. That's not enough
Yep.
to succeed. Would you like me to keep the complication?
You know what? I think the complication is interesting, and I think Sophanth is still gonna, say what's on her mind, but obviously she probably isn't getting data to back it up. So
You,
Sophanth sort of. Oh, go ahead.
it's inconclusive what what your scans have detected. The psychic field, for what it's worth, is actually pretty difficult to detect, which is why the difficulty was so much higher on that previous scan. And you don't really have much more in the way of how it works from what you've had before.
Gotcha. But since it's ticking all these boxes, for Sophanth, she's gonna say, Captain, are you familiar with the Beta 12A entity?
I can't say that is one that I know of.
Well, it was an entity, a non-corporeal being that was encountered on Beta 12A by the original USS Enterprise under James T. Kirk. The reason I think that might be relevant here, sir, is because this entity is one of emotion. It feeds off of anger and hatred and predatory instincts of those around it. And it also is capable of creating conditions and manipulating others to spawn such feelings. I don't want to say that that could be a similar entity based on that psychic field, that there might be something like that here. But again, all this is not adding up. The advance in technology, the lack of flora and fauna, the mention of Warden, the fact that there are so many different factions on the planet, all of this leads to either a carefully constructed world of war, or it's a prison planet, or it's a petri dish.
Due to this information, I do have something to offer. You are concerned about me beaming down and being scanned. We could rig up a dampening field around me, and at the same time also include a emergency transponder for immediate transport.
Who's in charge in engineering, GM Josh? Is it Loggins who's in charge?
Yeah, let's say Loggins.
Cool.
boy.
I'm not going to voice Loggins, but somebody else can do Loggins. But
I want to bring
Savant
Loggins onto
taps-
the bridge, so you have 3 characters to play.
Oh Jesus. So,
I'm okay with this.
Yeah,
so,
let's watch a show of hats and chairs.
oh God. The problem is Jensen or Loggins doesn't have a voice, so it's hard to differentiate. But Savant just basically taps her comm and says, Mr. Loggins, I'm gonna need you to rig up a special communicator for Mr. Montgomery. It needs to have an emergency transponder in it, as well as a self-generating dampening field for his frame.
Hey, you got it. Sounds like we'll be playing with the boys today.
What have we said about making? You know what? We'll talk about this later. Bridge out.
Tuzan will just smile and look at Sophanth. You didn't want to order cup holders into it too?
Savant reaches toward the armrest of her chair in a mocking way, and then pulls her arm back, just almost as if entertaining that thought.
Tuzan, I think you would know this without a roll. I was just looking through your stats and your focuses. As far as a psychic field is concerned, you can build something that can block it to a degree. Now, a strong psychic or telepath can break through stuff like that, but if you're worried about someone like a organic person beaming down there and being susceptible to it, you might be able to block it through some sort of device. Of course, you don't know what's causing it yet, so who knows how effective that's going to be, but these sort of things are stoppable.
Yeah, I was gonna say, wasn't there in the old TOS shows, was there not a an Espers episode where they had a specific drug that limited psychic potential.
I think you're thinking of like the first episode with Kirk. Yeah, I think there was an injection.
Yeah, like because it was an injection and they had to use it on some of the crewmen. I'll look it up.
Well, it's probably something like a cortical stimulator, or something along the lines where it can block.
Yeah, that sounds good. There's probably a way to give an injection of some kind that will suppress brain function in some way so that you would be less susceptible or not susceptible to it at all.
Now, the million-dollar question is, are they going to immediately recognize an android, even though they've never seen one?
Probably at this point. All right, so beaming down, NX level tech. Let's do this. This will be fun. Nothing like a first contact mission out of the ordinary.
All right, so let me know who all is going.
I'm assuming Monty.
Yeah, Monty
I'd
will
say,
go.
I'd say any of the hard-to-read species. I'd vote for Arnold.
Now, Arnold is with the crew that's working the salvage operation.
Or is he? Um,
I mean, I would send Serval, but my problem with Serval is that they're Acacian, and they're probably gonna want to poke at the bugs because they look like bugs to me. I'm trying to think if there's another NPC that I could take.
Take logins.
I could take Loggins.
we do need a diplomat-ish character.
Right, and that's what I'm looking for right now in our supporting characters. Do we even have one of those?
Hera is
Yeah.
an empath because she's Deltan. Let's see, Wynn does have, I've called it exclusive telepathy, so only inside of her species. And then, of course, Aaron does have some, I think it's just mostly telekinetic ability, the stuff that was bred in as a Vorta. But I don't think we've established any telepaths other than those guys.
Right, and if anything, based on what you've said, we want to avoid that because they would be having a headache, or we would have to limit those abilities. So we need someone with diplomatic training. I'm not seeing Aaron's sheet anywhere, but I remember her.
She's an NPC, that's why.
Do we have
Okay.
the emergency diplomatic hologram?
Oh,
You mean
God.
the EDH? That's still in
Yeah.
testing.
Oh, we could use it right here. What better way to test it than in a live active mission?
My
I mean-
only question is how are we getting it to the planet? Because
That's what I was gonna say.
Monty wears a holographic emitter backpack.
oh god.
I love this plan. If you guys would have run with it, I fully support of it.
Give me 5 minutes, I'll stat one. Just give me 5 minutes, I'll do it.
I have the perfect picture for the EDH, by the way.
Yeah,
Oh.
go ahead, shoot it to me. I'll make it a quick one. Oh god. No, we are not bringing Mr. Bean into this.
I have
No.
7 threat specifically for this moment. I can't wait.
I'll find
would
a
love
find a
it.
picture.
I would love it if we could play him without actually saying anything. Like he just makes verbal sounds. That's it. But he's never actually talked. Like
So what you're saying is he's the teacher from the Peanuts.
a
Yeah.
little bit, but it's Mr. Bean though, because he doesn't really talk. Actually, no, he did talk in one episode, and he made a weird, creepy hello.
Oh God.
Tuzan, also important detail. Where are you guys going?
Has any of the other factions contacted us?
Specifically through audio, like I said, that the leading faction, this Hyralan entity that the Monarch said they represent, are the most advanced technologically by far. The others have been trying to communicate with you. It's much more primitive communication, though.
I'm okay with that. I'm open to any of the communications that would be coming in.
8 gives you a summary, and she says, okay, bear with me, sir. There's a lot. So I'm going to give you a summary here. One is saying that by order of the warden, that they should send you away. Another is saying that you should land your vessel and surrender immediately. And they range in variations from that. One is saying that they welcome us, but only the females. Or at least I think that's what it's translated. Another says that our weapons are not welcome here. There's a few references to the warden in a few places. But they range from telling us they're going to destroy us, to telling us to go away, to telling us that we should land immediately.
All right, so it seems like the Monarch is the most stable of the bunch.
Well, from what I can tell, the Monarch is actually kind of taking advantage of this. Their orbital weaponry is attacking some of the other factions that appear to be communicating with us the most.
All right, then let's shut down communications for the time being to the planet. We don't want to cause any or be the cause of any deaths.
And she says, well, sir, if I can give you a summary, it appears as though planetary communication is consistent throughout all the factions. That's something we know. Now, the sophistication of that varies. But apparently they have progressed pretty far since they were last surveyed by the Gale, and they can all communicate with an orbital vessel.
That's true, although varying abilities.
So for the away team, I've got Tuzon, I've got Monty, and who else?
You're getting the emergency diplomatic hologram. I just have to think of a third focus for them.
Photons be freed.
No, that's a value.
Focus in baking. How about that?
You know what? Since apparently he's going to be a recurring character now, sure, we will make him a souffle chef. We'll call it culinary studies.
Howdy, Spencer. You've walked out into full-on shenanigans.
Oh, good.
Oh no, these are not shenanigans. This is entirely serious.
They're serious shenanigans.
Okay, so
You know, as
what's
much
this?
as we joke. All right, I think that sheet. Yes. So all I have to do now is upload his token, which I'm sure everybody will love.
I want you
just
to
have to find
upload
where
it and put it on screen so everyone can bask in the glory.
I think it uploaded. Maybe. Roll 20, please. I'll try again.
Nope.
Let's try.
Ah, yes, a person.
Yeah, I think something's going on with Roll20 because it's been real slow for me. I'll try restarting it.
Well, how about since when we're dealing with that, let's jump to see what's going on in the Republic. Since we've
Yeah,
got
that's a
Spencer
okay.
good
here.
idea. Told you.
I'm gonna call him Ed, by the way.
That is amazing. Thank you. So we
I love that.
transition to a scene showing the very damaged Republic Galaxy class vessel that was at the Battle of Starbase 234. What happened at the end of that battle was the Republic, she provided cover for many of the smaller ships that were having difficulty getting to warp and leaving the engagement area, but she paid for that at a pretty heavy price. Most of the crew were killed, and most of the vessel's internals were completely devastated. And actually, we can see from the shot that the hull of the ship is just blistered from shots, blackened all across it from, taking shots from the Klingon vessels. There's actually probably a fourth of the saucer section is just gone. You can see straight through it. The star drive section's actually doing okay, apart from missing a nacelle. She's mostly intact. Also of interest is the forward part of the saucer of the Republic. I'd say right here. A Klingon bird of prey rammed itself through into the saucer section, and part of it still remains. It's actually embedded in the front of the saucer. But, Raw Yelix, we're actually going to move to the bridge of the Republic.
Okay.
And let me throw you on here because this is the last ship that you're having to take care of in your survey. So your survey so far has been dealing with trying to figure out which ships you can salvage, which ships you can move around, and which ships just need to be destroyed. And the Republic is the last on your list. So we have Raw Yelix here. We have Arnold. And wait for it. We also have Kunal.
Oh,
So Kunal and Arnold are a part of a team from Starbase 23 that arrived. So what their job is, the vessels that have been assigned to be salvage worthy are being tractored back to Starbase 23. And Kunal here is leading that team. Basically, he was assigned here to manage the tugs that are pulling this back. So the Republic is the last vessel you have to determine what to do with. But you guys have congregated on the battle bridge of the Republic, which is, in the Star Drive section, because the bridge on the saucer is just gone.
mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'll let you guys take it away while I fix up Arnold's token.
Is Arnold NPC controlled, or are they being controlled by one of our players?
And they are being
Hi,
controlled
how
by
you
ELH.
doing? Who else would it be controlled by? I mean, really, let's just ask ourselves this question at this point. Who is that insane?
ELH, why don't you tell us a little bit about Arnold, since this is the first time seeing them?
Well, Arnold is rather well-to-do Vulcan. He is older, but he looks very fit, very trim. Even for his advanced age, he is spitting image of a Vulcan, if you will. Looks exactly like Mr. Schwarzenegger. So yeah, that's what Mr. Arnold looks like. But he is what rank did I give him? He's actually a callback to an old character on a different game. Yeah, he's a senior chief now. So Senior Chief Arnold just looks to Ra Helix and to Mr. Rev and says, "Well, the one thing we have to do now is we have to go to the front of the vessel and acquire the Klingon sensor readings. I'd be happy to go there myself."
I think that would actually be quite the idea, Arnold. If we can get what we can from that Klingon vessel, maybe we can hopefully get more of an idea on this cloaking technology. And he kind of turns to Conal, and just like, you see a slight smile come across his face, and he's just like, "Hey, buddy."
And Conal leans over and he's like, "Hey, Dad, it's good to see you. I hope you don't mind me coming out here. Besides just being worried about you, I thought it'd be a good chance to see what's going on out here."
No, I don't blame you for a second. I'm scared to ask this question, but how's Mom?
She's doing well. They're really worried about the front line with the Klingons. I don't know if you noticed that the other fights from the other fleets are not going as well as this one.
Yeah. Hopefully with what we find here, we can make some strides that'll help turn the tides for those fleets.
The third fleet is expected to be in full retreat at this point, headed back to Starbase 23, so that's why it's even more important to get these vessels back there and repaired if possible. They're gonna be in a fight.
Of course, but looking at the Republic in and of itself, it's not looking great. If anything, looking at some of the damages, is there any like really important parts that aren't like just entirely gone, like warp cores or any main power conduits, anything?
Why don't we do this? Why don't you give me Reason Engineering Ryelix
Sure.
difficulty of 0, because you guys have no momentum. And
Okay.
what we'll do is you can spend that momentum on questions about various systems if you want. But as long as you get one success, I'll just give you a general overview, and then you can spend that for more questions.
Gotcha.
Question:
Sorry, go ahead.
Can Arnold assist? Because he does have a focus in salvage operation.
Absolutely. You'll just have to tell us how Arnold is assisting.
I mean, going in the background saying, "This is not logical," something of that line. No, he's actively like going through the list, the actual scans, comparing it what he knows would actually be feasible to rip out and repurpose, or what just needs to be sent to Stardock to be scrapped.
Okay, yeah, that sounds perfect.
Let's see.
Would it still be a reason engineering if I heard correctly?
Yeah, I think it's Reason Engineering, for both.
Maintenance power systems as a focus.
Yeah, you're gold there.
All right. And yeah.
Oh, well, no help from Arnold.
There you go. 4 momentum.
Well, I got 4 successes, so.
So as a general answer to your question, like I said, you could spend momentum for more details in each one of these systems. But what you know right away is The critical systems on the ship are actually intact. They're all damaged to a degree. So the warp drive on the star drive section is not functional. Mostly because you only have one to sell. So that's kind of a bummer. She could probably sustain a warp field if you had like a tug towing her at warp, but that's the best you can get out of it. The impulse drive on the star drive is fine, so it could go at impulse. Now, when you go into the saucer, it's just progressively worse. So the impulse drive is sort of functional. The problem is the fusion reactors are offline, and they're leaking a fair amount of radiation, which is not very good. Life support system in the saucer section is down. So, that kind of sucks. The main computer in the saucer section is mostly intact. And then I think those are the main systems that you would be concerned about.
Okay.
Oh, weapon systems are completely down entirely.
I figured. He'll look over the list. Well, I think the main computer is probably about one of the most salvageable parts on the ship. The warp drive seems to be relatively okay on most fronts, but due to some of the cosmetic things wrong with this ship, I think we're better off for now taking what works in the Republic and maybe putting it in another ship. Because if this thing's in dry dock, it's going to be there for a hell of a long time.
Kunal speaks up. Now, Dad, I know you wanted to go to that Klingon ship that's embedded in the front of the saucer, but look where you're going to have to go. And he holds up a pad. You're going to have to go through Jeffrey's tubes, through areas of radiation to get to this. Even to get to the main computer, it just can't be worth it.
I mean, those are fair points.
Not to mention the state of that. Not to mention the state of that Klingon vessel. Who even knows what condition it's in?
But think of it logically. There could be very valuable data there.
He points at Arnold like, I think realistically, as much as you might not like it, I think getting whatever readings from that Klingon ship that we can, it's too valuable of information to just let it go to waste.
And you did have a question about, you said something about radiation suits. I will give you guys free space suits at this point. I think to even walk on this ship, you would have put those on.
Right.
But you will notice,
if we're in spacesuits, can't we just walk on the hull?
You can. I was going to follow that up with, now the fusion reactors are leaking radiation, so your suits will protect you to a point. And then, of course, they're not perfect. High levels of radiation will go through the suit, of course. But yes, Arnold, you asked, could you go onto the surface? You could. It's hard to say if the surface is going to be easier to walk on than the interior because the damage to the surface is also pretty severe.
Right. Could you put us back on the ship map? I actually have a semi-serious kind of question about things. The one with the holes. Yeah, that one. All right, so we are up here in the bridge, yeah?
You're in the battle bridge, so you're like right here.
Okay, so we're actually way back here. Okay. So we have to go up and then across the saucer. So let's say, for example, this purple path might be the one we would take through the Jeffries tube. My question then is, let me put this let's do a light blue color. Would it be better for us to kind of do this across the hull and then come in and come back around with this blue line?
You guys have done this before, actually. Tuzon did this on the hull of the ship that's just escaped my mind. You guys have sort of done this before. You've walked on the outside of a damaged vessel to get to the interior. I mean, that's certainly something you can do.
Gotcha. And out of character, my brain is just shot because time doesn't mean anything. Vulcans have a fairly high tolerance to radiation, don't they?
Yeah, I was going to bring that up in character if need be. So
okay. Gotcha. So after kind of looking over our options, Valgalix will turn to Arnold. It's like, would you be willing to make that walk if needed?
Yes, I think it is worth the opportunity, but I probably should go with one of you.
I think if one of the two of us is going to go, I think it should be me. Someone who's an engineer, it's probably our best bet. And he's kind of watching Conal's reaction to that as he's talking, just to see, you know.
He looks very uneasy, and he says, "Dad, even if you go on the outside of this ship, look at," and he points again to a pad, "look at this section of the hull. They've hit this thing with so much disruptor fire that the duranium it's almost like paper thin at this point. You could make one wrong step and then fall through this, and who knows? The life support systems are sort of functional. Some of the grav plating might still be working, or it might not be."
Well, that is what the emergency beam out is for. Or have you forgotten that already?
No, I have not forgotten it, Chief. And he puts heavy emphasis on the word chief because he's a lieutenant.
Oh, I know.
He sort of looks at Conal, just like, listen, I know you don't like the risks involved here, but I think Arnold's right, and I have to go with my own intuition. If we don't get readings from that Klingon ship, we might have no information to help the other fleets. We just blew a lot of Klingon ships up, but what does that do to help because what other fleets are, because it was the 3rd fleet and I think the 5th fleet?
The 7th.
The 7th fleet, got it. The 3rd and 7th fleets need our help, and I think any information we can give to them is information that's valuable.
Well, I'll leave it to you, of course, Lieutenant Commander, to make that decision. I just feel very uneasy about it. This ship is coming apart.
I understand your concerns, but I think it's something that we both have to do. Arnold, let's get ready.
Yeah. Arnold will, I suppose, take point.
And as you guys head out, we're actually going to transition to the surface of Hyralan 4, and I'll let you guys tell me who all is going.
Now, is this a diplomatic mission?
Yes.
Okay. Got it.
And you are limited to NX era technology with one exception because of Montgomery.
Got it.
Because we went on a tangent. It's the best.
We did go on a tangent, and now it's a thing.
So I have a dampening field, emergency transponder, and a holographic backpack emitter.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Let's bring in a character that I don't think we've used yet. I'll bring along Testra Trey.
Okay.
Who is this person? Who?
She's a Betazoid counseling officer.
All
No,
right, so
no.
Testra is a Betazoid.
We don't want.
Okay, so I wasn't able to find the drug, and the reason I couldn't is because it's in beta canon in the Q Continuum series of novels. And if you were to give me 2 hours, I could find the drug, but there is precedence here for a dampening drug. The caveat is that it does literally completely turn off your powers. So that's sort of the trade-off there.
Oh, you know what? Yeah, actually, it's an alpha canon. The Deltans have to take that drug to suppress their pheromones. Which
is
does,
it the same drug, maybe?
Yeah, I think it suppresses their telepathic ability too. I think that's alpha canon. Anyway, yeah, there's plenty of precedence for it. So yeah, you could take
somebody
Testra.
fill me in really quick because I wasn't here.
There is also the telekinetic suppression collar.
Nah, we don't want to go with the collar. But yeah, let's fill Spencer in. Who wants to start?
I could do a quick summary. So you guys have made first contact sort of with the Hyralans. From what you've gleaned so far is they seem to be very technologically advanced, and they actually, just by looking at the Hope, were able to figure out that it has phasers, and that was implied that they may be figuring out how it works. So Tuzan and the crew are taking a very cautious approach to going down to the planet. You guys were also able to detect a low-level psychic field across the whole planet, which is also a little concerning because that's very unusual. So Tuzan has also worked out an injection for the people going to the planet to try to treat them from being affected by whatever this thing is. So Montgomery's going, but also using a field to dampen his ability to be scanned. And then Tuzan's also working out an injection so that whatever the psychic field is, it probably won't affect you guys.
Gotcha. In that case, let's just bring along a medical officer. Let's break out Lunaris for the first time in this season.
I think that's great.
So an android, a hologram, and a silver blood walk into a bar.
So I'll give this to you guys, Tuzan and Montgomery. You can spend 2 momentum to create an advantage, each of you, that will cover what you were trying to do. Or if you like, we can do a roll.
I'm fine with spending momentum.
Sure.
So it'll be giving me your 4 momentum, but that will cover the injection for you, Tuzan and Lunaris. And
you know
then...
what? I'll have Tuzan roll for the ejection.
Okay.
Because he still has a high medical fit and all of that stuff.
Oh,
Well,
can Johan help?
Sure. Well, let's do a control medicine for Tuzan's injection. Difficulty of 2. And you do have focus.
Okay. I was gonna say, just yes.
And same thing for Johan's assist.
Okay. I'm also going to give him a talent. I had the roadmap of him, but now I don't see it anywhere. Did you hide it on me?
The roadmap for him?
Yeah, the other Johan.
Oh, I probably did archive it.
Okay.
I can restore him if you give me a sec.
Well, I got 1 success. Johan, don't fail us now.
There it
Well, now that you've jinxed it.
is. Right?
I knocked on wood.
Okay, it was bold medicine. Yep, bold medicine is what I'm going to add to him.
Cool.
If I can
Yeah,
find
control
a little gear
medicine,
wheel.
you just need 1 success.
Okay.
And you do have a focus, for sure.
Yeah.
This
Which
is
one?
right up his alley.
Toxicology? Cocktail chemistry? Task roll, yes. And I'm assistant, so I can't buy dice.
Correct, you can only roll 1.
Hey!
That's all you needed. So I said that this will work for Lunaris also. I don't think we've established that Silverbloods can be controlled psychically anyway, but we will say that this is also going to work for Lunaris. So I believe going to the planet... that puts the diplomatic hologram in ELH's control?
Yep.
Cool.
Which actually, I had a thought. And this is more a question for Spencer, I guess.
Okay.
This is, you're still Silverblood, yeah?
Yep.
So instead of Monty wearing the holographic backpack, why don't we just put it inside of you?
To like hide it?
Uh-huh.
I
Oh,
mean,
God.
yeah, sure. Shenanigans.
But from a logical standpoint, it isn't just for shenanigans' sake. It's,
Yeah.
they're not going to think to scan you because you don't have any technology on you. And my thinking is that since Silverbloods are hard to discern anyway, what's going on, that maybe it'll be a buffer to the actual sort of scan of the technology, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I'm down.
So are we giving him a dampening emitter as well?
Well, no, he's a Silverblood. He doesn't have he's not like an android where if they got a scan of him, they would be like suddenly producing androids. he's biological in a sense.
Oh yeah, I'm just saying, like, if they scan him and they're like, oh hey, that's a holographic emitter inside of his body.
Right, but what I'm saying is that perhaps his natural physiology will already dampen it for us.
Since
That way we don't have to spend momentum or do a task to create that advantage.
just to move things along, since Monty gave me the 2 momentum to create the advantage for his dampening field, I'll say that'll apply to the EDH no matter who's carrying it.
Okay.
But I guess the last question would be, is anyone carrying anything that's out of the ordinary apart from the whatever it's going to take to emit the EDH?
No, and we wouldn't even have our normal comm badges. We would do NX communicators.
Okay.
What was the weapons they used on the Enterprise before their hand phasers? Or
The phase pistols, which I think are in the armory.
yeah, there was something before that, because I remember Reed mentioning it. I think it was like she straight up called it laser.
In the cage, they called that weapon a laser. I think we could, before they had the phase pistols, I think they just called it pulse. I don't even remember what it was called. It was just like pulse lasers or something.
Pulse gun.
Pulse gun. Thank you. Yeah, pulse gun.
Yeah, cause if we could bring that, then we don't have to worry about them even getting an idea of any phase type technology.
Well, as you guys materialize in the coordinates that you were given into the main city of the Hyralan entity, you notice it's a very clean, very well put together city. There are lots of Hyralans around, and just like Sofan said, apart from the cloud cover being pretty thick, the planet's actually very comfortable. It's like a 71 degrees Fahrenheit, so a touch on the warm side, but for the most part, it's a fairly nice place to be. As soon as you materialize, though, you materialize in a square. Several armed Hyralans immediately notice you and begin to rush forward, and they have weapons drawn, and it looks like they're laser rifles. And there are 3 of them. Now, these Hyralans are like the typical Hyralans. They are, well over 2 meters. They each have 3 pairs of glowing eyes, and they do look very insectoid, almost very beetle-like as they walk towards you. They each have, all Hyralans only have, 2 arms and 2 legs, but their hands each have 6 fingers, and their fingers end at almost like points, not exactly nails, but the fingers taper off to a point. But they're holding rifles, and they have the rifles pointed at you.
I'm going to make sure I'm standing in front of the captain.
And Lunaris will sort of put his hands up as the Hyralans kind of move forward.
We did not bring any security personnel.
The first guard says to you, "You drop your weapons now."
Who said we've had weapons? I'll just say out loud.
And the second Hyralan says, "You are guests to our planet. It would not be very prudent of you to try to deceive us."
I have the weapons here.
We're on a mission of peace. Why would we bring weapons?
We should have hidden weapons inside of Lunaris.
Yeah, suddenly it's not such a silly idea, is it?
Oh, God. And the first Hyralan says, "Then you will submit to a search if you have nothing to hide."
Just look towards the captain.
All right.
Okay, if you guys submit, the Hyralans begin to pat you down. I don't think even if you guys had the pulse guns that would have been concealed. Like, those are pretty large and conspicuous. So very quickly they find your communicator, your tricorder, and your weapons. They immediately take the weapons because it's very clear that they're weapons. They take that away from you, but they leave the rest of your devices.
And so the pulse guns were just stun weapons, if I remember correctly, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
I have no lethal.
But as they're taking your weapons away, another Hyralan advances out of a building and rushes towards you. This Hyralan is slightly smaller, and it has longer frills running off the side of its head, and it's wearing much more ornate clothing. The other Hyralan guards who are carrying weapons are wearing very armored-looking gear that is very formidable looking. But this one, she walks up to you, and she immediately begins introducing herself. She has actually several pairs of eyes, not just 3. She's probably got like 4 or 5 pairs total. And as she walks up, her eyes glow a brighter, like whitish purple. And she says, welcome to my planet. Welcome, welcome. The Warden sends welcome.
And who might you be? Lunaris Farrell of the Starship Hope.
And she says, my name is Sheila.
And can I safely assume that you're a leader of your people in a way?
Let us say I am affluent with my people. There is only one true leader in the Hyralan entity.
I see. Well, it's a pleasure to meet you all the same.
I must confess, you are rather unusual looking creatures.
Well, can't say I blame you. Have you seen people that look like us before?
I have not. The Warden says, however, that we should be understanding and accepting of all kinds, even those as unusual as yourselves.
We have very similar feelings when meeting others.
And she cocks her head and looks at you, Montgomery. You look very different from the others. Are you a different gender?
He'll tilt his head for a second, like, you consider me a different species.
Amazing. So you come from a different world than the others.
Technically correct.
All of us here come from different worlds.
And then she finally looks at the EDH. And what about you? You look as though you're the sort that arrives precisely when you mean to.
Well, now that you've stolen my joke, Josh, God. But yeah, he just sort of looks somewhat stoically into the distance and says, I am what you would call a diplomat. In another life, I was a doctor.
And in another life still, you're a bartender.
I serve many roles.
Do you hear the voice of the Warden?
I mean, he makes a, kind of a putting his ear to the wind sort of gesture with his head. And I'm assuming he doesn't hear the voice of the Warden, so he just kind of continues and says, unfortunately, no, I do not hear a voice of the Warden.
No, apart from maybe like a Pocahontas moment where you hear the sounds of Mother Earth, you don't hear anything from the Warden.
Cool. I was tempted to spend 2 momentum to make it an advantage, but maybe that's a little too silly.
No, not at all.
Sheila says, I am instructed to take you to the Monarch.
Please lead the way.
And she starts walking you through the city. And you can tell, like, the city is very, very clean. There are a number of armed Hyralans. And most of the other Hyralans are just going back and forth. Many look at you and eye you guys very closely as you walk by. Particularly you, Montgomery. You get a lot of strange stares.
I don't look at them directly, but I'm making sure to observe everything as I can.
Tuzan will walk up to behind Montgomery. It's the new haircut.
Oh, thank you. It seems to be attracting a lot of attention.
Well, isn't that the whole point of a new haircut?
I suppose so.
And as you're walking, Sheila walks to you, Tuzan. Might I ask how you came to find this world?
We are travelers among the stars, and we managed to come across the signature from the ship that this planet launched.
Ah, of course, Narv's experiment. It has caused quite the uproar.
Oh, why is that?
The warden specifically asked for us not to leave our planet. However, Narv no longer hears the voice of the warden, and he believed it prudent to further his own gains. I believe he actually indebted himself to the monarch in order to acquire the materials to launch the mission.
Well, we see the expansion into the stars as a great step forward in the life of a species. Does not mean you have to abandon your home or your beliefs.
Of course, to those of us, the few of us who hear the warden, we've begun to, well, we are taught to no longer listen to its voice, but I trust the warden. It's always been a source of comfort for me.
This warden, do they act as, for lack of a better way of putting it, a god for your people?
And Sheila cocks her head. I am unfamiliar with that term.
Something that's much greater than our physical selves. Spiritual,
A
to put it.
deity.
Yes.
Well, how about this? It is almost time for nourishment. I will take my nourishment soon. I could offer the nourishment to you as well. It is said that many of us can hear the voice of the warden if we are fully nourished. And especially before going to speak with the monarch, I would find it rude of myself to at least not offer the hospitality of my people.
That certainly seems like an interesting prospect. Should it be safe for our own body's consumption, of course.
And he says, it would be unworthy of the warden for me to offer you something that is dangerous.
Of course.
There are many species out there amongst the stars, as it were, that cannot consume standard food due to their genetic makeup. So what may work for you may be harmful for any member of our crew. We will have to attempt later after we verify the safety of it.
And she turns her head to the side. Do you mean that there are many others on many other planets throughout the galaxy like yourselves?
Correct.
Achieving warp speed not only brings the ship like ours to greet you, but it also enters your species onto the galactic stage. You are now entering a new community, one with hundreds of different species.
That is a remarkable prospect. I know that Narv mentioned that by looking at your vessel, he was able to determine that you are using a matter-antimatter drive to achieve warp propulsion.
Is that not how you achieved warp propulsion as well?
I'm not a scientist, but I believe that antimatter, the replication of it was more difficult. Of course, it is, I believe, something that Narv and his researchers are working on immediately.
Intriguing.
Yes. So you were saying you were able to achieve warp travel without matter-antimatter engines?
I am not a scientist, so the science behind it eludes me. I can only remark that your vessel has drawn quite a bit of interest.
It would be great to have a chance to see your warp vessel on the planet.
Of course. I believe after you meet the monarch, there's no reason why you couldn't, of course, with the monarch's approval.
Indeed.
And as she's walking, she walks over to what looks like a trough of water, and she grabs a cup. There's like a pile of cups right next to it, and she picks the cup up. She turns it and she says, "To the warden," and she gets a big cup of water and she drinks it, and then she scoops up cups for each of you and hands them to you. Of course, if you believe it is safe, this is the ceremonial rite of consumption.
Tuzan, knowing that Sophanth gave that wonderful advice of don't eat things, is at least going to scan it to make sure that there is nothing harmful that comes up in the using the NX level tricorder.
Monty's going to drink a cup.
Okay. Monty, you drink it down. Seems just to be water. Tuzan, before you scan, Lenaris, what are you going to do?
Sure, let's see what happens. Lenaris will drink it.
Okay. So Tuzan...
So I do want to say that looking over like Data's design and stuff of Beta Cannon and Alpha Cannon, he can break down food and water into stuff for his body to use. Doesn't really do it often, but he can also like he has chambers. So I'm just locking it in one of my chambers.
Okay.
So it's just staying to like a sample collection.
Tuzan, why don't you give me a medicine insight, difficulty of 2. This is actually down from a difficulty of 3. I'm giving the lower difficulty because of your optical implants.
Oh, something I totally forgot I still had. Research as a focus.
Yeah, sure.
I'm gonna spend a momentum for a third die. Didn't need to.
I believe that's 2 momentum. You're detecting organic microbes in the water.
Are said microbes appearing to be harmful to me, or should it? Tuzan seeing that, I guess Tuzan seeing that won't chance it because he is living tissue.
And Lenaris, as you down the water, there's just a moment, where just it's kind of cold water. And then you hear, it's like a whisper in the back of your mind. And it says, "You are new."
I am?
Are you saying that when you vocalize?
Like kind of in my head. See if there's any response.
You must be the outsiders.
We are. What exactly was in that water? I'm not. This is all in my head.
Through the water, I am able to communicate with the people.
I see. Does this only last for a short time?
I have never encountered one like yourself before.
I'm what is known as a Bajoran. This is interesting for me. I've actually had voices like this before.
I do not believe you are from Bajor.
You're rather insightful. I'm what is known to our group as a Silverblood. I am essentially able to take the forms of other beings, and the one I happened to take was that of a Bajoran, which is what I consider myself now.
it is good that you have arrived, but then also a tragedy. The end
Why
of the
is it? Oh, sorry, I'll let that voice
Hyralan,
continue.
the end of the Hyralan people is near.
Why is that?
And the whisper stops.
Linaris is just going to sort of slowly make his way over to Tuzon. So, and he's whispering this. I believe I came in contact with their warden.
Tuzon will just like turn to Lenardus. What'd you find out?
One big thing. The warden told me that the end of the Hyralan people is near, but I got nothing more other than that.
Interesting.
After that, Sheila motions for you guys to follow, and she leads you towards a very large structure in the center of the city.
I'll follow.
As we kind of keep walking, he'll motion to the building, just ask Sheila, is this where the monarch resides?
Yes, this is the residency of the monarch.
It's quite impressive architecture, if I should say so myself.
And she almost seems to ignore that comment, and she says to you, "You were the only one that drank the water. Well, the other did," and she's pointing to Montgomery. "I'm curious, have either of you heard the voice of the warden?"
No.
I actually did for a short time.
Well, consider yourself lucky. There are very few who do hear the voice of the warden anymore.
Why is it such... Well, no, you should kind of explain why it was such a rare thing. I see. Well, I'm glad to be someone of... Rarity's not the right word, but I think you understand what I'm trying to convey.
And that she kind of turns and continues to walk up to the building that held the monarch. And as she does that, we're actually going to transition back to the Republic. So let's talk about Ra Yelix and Arnold's mission. You guys were going to head somewhere. You're going to go through the internal or the exterior of the ship?
I mean, I would think the external would be just faster at this point.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that was our plan.
Okay. Let's maybe move to this wonderful Madden chart. So to describe this scene, Arnold, you and Ra Yelix walk out. You probably don't have to go out one of the airlocks of the ship. You can just walk out through one of the many holes in the star drive, and then you exit out to the hull, activate your magnetic boots, and then you're stuck, clunk, clunk, to the exterior of the ship. And then as you walk around, we have another shot that pulls back and shows more of the damage of the saucer. And you can see it's a bit of a walk because you're walking the length, like not the widest part of the saucer, but the whole length of it.
Which, if I recall correctly, is somewhere on the neighborhood of 300 meters, something like that.
That sounds about right. 300 or 400 meters. If the whole ship is like 600 meters, it's probably like that, yeah.
Yeah. Do you want us to do any rolls, like a fitness security as we're traversing, or?
I think so. For reasons that may become apparent in the future, Arnold, let's do a fitness security for you, difficulty of 1. Ra Yelix, your difficulty is a 3.
Oh, good. Oh, good.
Well, I'm fine.
Good. Fitness security is like literally my worst combination.
I will let you succeed at cost if you'd like.
Okay. I'll take a momentum for a third die. And I think the closest thing I have is team dynamics, which is a stretch, so I'll just say I don't have a focus. And yeah. I have one.
Yeah, again, you can succeed at cost if you'd like. And there will be a complication that comes up, but you will succeed.
Yeah, well, let's succeed at cost there.
And the complication is, as you and Arnold are walking across the hull of the ship, you manage to make your way. It's very precarious. You slowly take a step here, take a step there, noticing the indentation of the hull as you get to the soft areas and you walk around it. But what you've noticed is as you've walked further along the hull, the complication is the radiation from the saucer actually kills your communication systems. You can communicate with Arnold because you're so close, but other than him, that's it. You actually can't communicate with anyone else.
Arnold, and I guess you'll probably have to switch to like a suit-to-suit interface. Communications are fried. We can only talk with each other now.
All right, it is noted. Watch your footing there. And he points out maybe as you're about to like fall into the abyss, as it were.
Oh, thank you. Let's proceed.
And the scene continues as the two of you walking across the saucer. I think when you get to about this point, this is when you can really see the biggest damage to the Republic. You can see from the top of the saucer all the way through and out the bottom. This entire section is just a hole right through the saucer section.
Damn. Wish we could save this ship, but I don't think there's really much we can do.
Well, I'm sure her memory will live on. They will make another of her, give it the name -A, and they will live on in history.
And let's just hope that it can be as beautiful as a ship as this Galaxy class was.
And then as you continue, you push your way through debris because in this voided section, there's still stuff like chairs, various bits of technology and stuff in the way. But as you continue to move on across the hull, we are actually going to transition to the throne room in the Hyralan location. I actually need to grab your tokens, but as I'm doing that, so standing here in the center of this room is the Monarch. You guys saw him before on the view screen. He's not exactly at a throne. That's not really what this room is. This looks more like a command and control center. Circling in the center of this chamber are several just like computer terminals that actually have primitive holographics. He's tracking a number of things. It looks like other parts of the planet, but then you also can see in one of the larger holographic displays in the center is the Hope. It seems as though the Hope has gotten a large bit of attention from the Monarch. But as you guys walk in, Sheila leaves you. She actually doesn't enter this chamber, and the guards wait outside.
I see that you've become quite interested in our ship.
The Monarch turns slowly and looks at all of you. Yes, it is quite prudent to understand your vessel.
Our vessel's a little bit on the older side, but it gets us around pretty well. The Monarch, I presume.
Yes, I am the Monarch. I am the ruler of the Hyralan entity. Welcome to this planet.
Thank you for having us. It's magnificent what you have here.
Indeed, it is adequate. I am quite proud of our achievements.
As you should be. You've made a lot of progress in a very short amount of time.
Indeed, it is the Hyralan way. very prudent of us to continue and advance as quickly as possible.
Advancing quickly isn't always as good as it sounds.
To advance slowly invites others to dominate the situation. It is our belief that that is a weakness.
The belief of you or the belief of your faction?
The belief of mine and the belief of my faction are the same. You said
Very
that you had questions for us. I will make you a bargain, Captain. You may ask me a question, and then I will ask you a question.
Very well, although there are questions that I am not allowed to answer.
And he actually crosses his arms in front of himself. That is... Well, I understand that that is prudent. That is very unfortunate. There are many things that I would like to know.
Oh, there are still many things that I am able to answer, but there are certain things that the Federation doesn't share openly with people that they have just met.
That is very prudent when it comes to continuing your dominance to not share all of your secrets. I do understand.
It isn't
It
so
is
much
not-
a show of dominance.
Agreed. It is more or less to ensure your culture's survivability. There have been instances where other powers have given information and technology to less advanced cultures, only for them to wipe themselves out with it.
And I
And
don't think you want to destroy all of your people for the advancement. Who are you a monarch of if you've destroyed the planet?
And he looks at Kenneth as he's saying this, and he says, the people are replaceable. They matter nothing. They can be easily replaced with others. You are not an organic life form, are you?
I'm another type of life form, yes.
Very, very interesting. Captain, I have a question. What could we do to acquire this creature?
Nothing. He isn't for sale, and he is still a sentient being.
What about trading information about its composition?
Unfortunately, that stuff isn't even available for me as a captain to be able to see. Um, he's a very complex life form.
Indeed, very, very prudent. Ask your questions, Captain.
Tuzon's just thinking out of character. What should I ask?
First off, one question I have is where did they get the knowledge to go to warp? Because as much as they're saying, "Oh, we developed it," 30
Yeah, the
years,
30 years.
man. 30 years.
So Tuzon will step forward. Well, my first question is, how did you advance so quickly? We've never seen anybody advance at the rate that you have.
That is an easy question to answer. The superiority of the Hyralan people is without question. We were on the bridge of warp technology in our past, but we lost that technology in a great conflict. We were able to restore it once we made certain breakthroughs.
Intriguing. Would love to know about this great conflict of your past.
It is without consequence.
Oh well. We find there's very interesting information about this planet. It's intriguing to us. We've never seen a Class M planet like this where there seems to be no plants or animals.
The conflict I mentioned was what eradicated the native life forms apart from the Hyralans. Of course, they were inconsequential. You should not be concerned about them. Of course, we get all of our sustenance from the water that we drink, so the loss of the creatures, plants, etc. were meaningless. And now my question, Captain. I'm sure you have been told, or at least you were able to determine, that we have had a difficulty replicating antimatter. It seems as though your vessel has it in large supply. Is that antimatter a critical component of your warp propulsion?
Our ships typically are propelled through antimatter warp drives, but that is not the only warp drive that is used in the Federation.
That is fascinating. We understand that matter-antimatter reaction would further drive our warp systems to enable us to travel beyond the system with much greater speed. That must be how you are traveling between the stars so quickly.
Like I said, it is one propulsion that we utilize in the Federation.
Would you mind if I asked a question?
Of course.
Why has it been taught among some of your people to ignore this voice of the warden?
And he almost seems to sigh, like his shoulders droop a little as he says this. The nonsense of the warden. There are many that's on this planet that have subscribed to the delusion of a voice inside of their head is an affliction that I have worked to eradicate. Over time, as we have become more sophisticated and advanced, the voice, if you will, of the warden has begun to diminish amongst my people. I am working heavily to eradicate it from those other factions that say they hear it. It has become quite a nuisance in our path to advancement.
That is
why. God, I want to keep asking questions.
Tucson was just going to say that is one thing that the Federation will look down upon, the eradication of the factions and the different beliefs, individuality and development of the person, as well as the culture, is a very big component of the Federation and its member world.
And the monarch turns his head to the side, and actually an extra pair of his eyes glows a little brighter. So you mean that your Federation values inferior creatures that do not share the vision of the collective whole, against the common good of the furtherment of your species? That seems very imprudent.
Those beliefs and various other things is what makes the Federation the Federation. And acceptance of other beliefs is what has allowed this Federation to thrive for centuries now.
We look at our differences as a unifying factor. What we can learn from each other is quite valuable, even though one of the same species might not hold the same beliefs.
And he looks at you. He looks at you.
Sorry.
He looks at you, Monty, and he kind of cocks his head to the side again, and he says, "I can tell through observing you that you must have a positronic matrix as your logic system. How have you been able to deal with the synaptic decay common to positronic systems?"
Unfortunately, that information is not yet to be shared at this moment.
Nor is it really well known.
A very valuable secret. It is quite prudent of you to withhold it. And he looks back to you, Linaris. You have another question.
Why do you find, in what our sense we will call religion, why would you consider those who are religious to be inferior beings to advancement?
Those who claim to hear the voice of the warden offer up a slower path to advancement, and in most cases caution against advancement at all. It's a very imprudent line of thinking. If we were to follow the voices of the Warden, we would not have left this planet. We would have not begun to develop the weapons to destroy our enemies.
Yes, destroying your own people. Again, not exactly favorable in the Federation. Discrimination of any sort towards any other people groups is very well frowned upon.
The people are replaceable. However, the advancement of the Hyralan entity is of our foremost concern.
There's more than
What
just advancement.
What exactly is the entity?
The entity is the overall spirit of the Hyralan people, our long-term vision of our place in the universe.
And what is that vision?
The vision, of course, is the Hyralan people, in control of all that there is.
Well, I can tell you right now, your galactic neighbors won't be allowing that.
It seems very prudent of me to ask, what other goal would there be? You seem very shocked by this.
I'm from a planet that has colony worlds spread across a sector. All of us shared a common centralized government on our home world. But we joined the Federation to better ourselves, to learn from each other, to advance together as a single entity. But the Federation is made up of, well over 300 worlds at this point. All different species from each planet, individualized, each share their own beliefs, all have the option to pursue their own goals, not work as a hive. We do have Starfleet, which is what we are members of, which is an exploratory entity, the vessel such as the Hope that is in orbit. But there are also other advancements that you could go into. We have made peace with some of our neighbors, made enemies with others. We have fought wars, but we've also come to mutual understandings and peace, as well as a sharing of knowledge and technology over the course of the Federation. The Federation was even founded among 5 different worlds, 4 of which were all different species from the other.
And he has a control pad that he holds up, and he hits a button on it, and a hologram appears right here, actually, of a portion of the Hope, and it zooms in on a photon torpedo launcher. And he says, my question to you is, how does this weapon work? And what is its destructive capability?
We are unable to share any weapons data.
Again, very prudent, I understand.
I have one, says the emergency diplomatic hologram. Tell me, if you are so concerned with progress, you have already shown that you have the capability to wipe out other factions. Why do you tolerate them at all? Why not just wipe all other factions out and wipe the slate clean?
That is a very good question. And until just recently, it was because of our inability to target them accurately. However, the vessel that was the warp-capable vessel was actually designed as a way to destroy more groups of the factions quicker. And what we have learned is that the technology to travel at warp can be reapplied into weapons of mass destruction. And in fact, that's actually what we are working on currently. Mr. Narv, the chief scientist of the warp vessel, has been working on reconstituting that technology into matter-antimatter weaponry. I believe soon that we will have the means to eradicate the other factions on this planet.
At that note, I think the EDH is going to motion for the captain like he needs a moment alone, but he's not going to like say it out loud.
Oh, at that point, Tuzan was thinking about turning around and just walking out of the room. Tuzan will lean into the hologram.
Sir, I do not bring this up lightly. Everything that I've heard so far suggests that this may be one of those rare situations where General Order 24 comes into play.
Have to look up what that order is.
It's the one to
Character?
destroy all life on a planet.
Well, I don't know that we have to do that. It sounds like they're quite on their way. Although I think we've heard enough. It's time for us to leave. If they're so, well, hellbent on destroying themselves, then I say we've come and learned all that we needed to learn.
Normally, I would agree with you, sir. However, based on what we have heard so far, they're not going to stop once they've eradicated the other factions. In fact, I am quite certain, based on my diplomatic programming, that they will not accept a treaty with another species. They will only do what the board do. They will assimilate, they will adapt, and they will eliminate. If we do not handle this threat now, I believe that within perhaps even 5 years' time, we will be dealing with another Klingon war front, except this time it'll be with the Hyralans.
And at that point, who knows where their technology will be.
Exactly. Once again, this is why I suggest General Order 24.
Let's reconvene on the ship. Let's move ourselves out of the planetary system and call the Commodore. I don't want to make that decision without consulting the higher ups.
And then I think the emergency diplomatic hologram just sort of turns to the monarch and says, "We are rather tired after our negotiations today. We will be returning to our ship with your blessing."
Of course, we were able to monitor a way for you to transport to this planet. Is it some kind of matter conversion system?
The technology that we use, we are not able to share. We are able to share older technology that is the equivalent of yours, but we cannot share any of the advancements.
Then it would be very prudent to allow you to return to your ship so that we can watch this technology in action again.
Very well, we will go back to the place where we transported in.
And as you're walking out, Lenarish, you hear the voice in your mind again, and it says, "Be warned, they are watching you. They are watching your vessel very closely."
And Norris just sort of like is silent for a second for almost like a very strange period of time to maybe the other people that are with him, and kind of nods and just follows them. I guess my question would be, is Sheila waiting outside the door?
Yeah, she is.
He'll kind of turn to her and just ask, how many of the Hyralans are the best way I can put it, believers in the Warden.
In the Hyralan entity, not many. Many have heard the voice of the Warden and eventually hear it no further, no more. There are other factions, unfortunately, that are being destroyed rather quickly that still believe in the Warden. I worry every day that I will no longer hear the voice.
So you're one of the people that fully believes in them, correct?
Of course. You yourself said you heard the voice of the Warden. It is a real thing.
And I agree with that as well. Do you have anyone else who is close to you that also believes in this voice?
Narv, who is the scientist who built the warp ship, he has said before that he used to hear the voice of the Warden, but no longer does. I do not have anyone else that I speak to regularly about this. It's since you are outsiders, you would not understand. It is not something that we generally discuss.
It's understandable. I appreciate the conversation. And he'll sort of smile and he'll reconvene with Tuzan. I'm not sure if this has been made obvious enough, but they spoke to me again. And they're watching us. So we need to be careful.
I fully expected them to be watching us, to be quite honest, Linaris.
I'm probably talking more
Captain.
about... Oh, let's go ahead.
I was going to say, Captain, if we are able to lose our tail for a few moments, I could shift my holographic matrix to blend us in with our environment, if you will.
Sounds like a good idea.
So I understand you guys trying to copy yourselves or cloak yourselves as looking like Hyralans, or just trying to disguise yourselves in general? Sort of like cloak yourselves?
Like, like we go past an alleyway and people keep walking past the alleyway, but in reality, we're just hiding inside a hologram. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, it does.
The thinking behind that out of character is that if they see us leave, they're obviously going to get scans of it. But if we hide first, then beam out, they're not like they might still get it anyway, but it'll be more difficult for them.
Before we put that into plan, let's actually jump scenes back onto the Hope, into the bridge, where Sophanth, you are monitoring the situation, of course, of the away team. Zyvor, you've noticed just through monitoring the life signs of the away team that Linaris' life signs have actually fluctuated, not like dangerously, but there is that psychic field you noticed before has kind of increased a bit around him.
Sure, I don't know if it's prudent, but the psychic energy has increased around Lunaris. Sophanth kind of looks over and says, I wonder why. Where are they at this current moment? And Zyvor says, they are currently, and gives an approximate location. Sophanth sort of thinks for a moment and then says, I'm going to channel, and if they reply, we'll find out very quickly. And if they don't reply, then they're probably not in a position to talk.
So when you open the Haley frequency 8, immediately you do get the away team.
It seems we've been able to get through, Commander.
Very well. Sophanth to the away team.
Tuzan will get the communicator out. This is the away team.
Is everything all right down there, sir?
We've had a very interesting conversation with the going to call him Sovereign.
Monarch.
The Monarch. Thank you. With the Monarch.
I see. Will you be returning to the ship shortly?
We will be returning shortly. We gotta. Well, we have a little discussion on our hands when we get back.
I'll prepare the ready room.
All right, we'll be back shortly. We just have to. Well, we want to do some sightseeing before we come back.
Ah, I see, sir. Well, I hope you brought along your holo camera for such an endeavor.
Not particularly, but I'm pretty sure this communicator has a camera somewhere on it.
Very well. If you need any assistance, sir, just please let us know. Help out.
And
And then, oh, go ahead.
I just looked at one of your focuses, and since Zyvor has shared that he was able to track this psychic field around Linares, you might be able to use that as a way to triangulate its source.
Ooh, interesting. In that case, I would like to attempt to do so.
So because it's a planet-wide psychic field, there's a few ways you could do this. You could try to so the difficulty, and because it's a planet, is your sensors don't directly have line of sight to everywhere across the planet. There's a few ways you could tackle that. You could try to hijack some of the satellites that the Hyralans have to extend your sensors, or you could launch a few probes or launch some support vessels. But that's sort of what you're going to need to scan all parts of the planet in order to triangulate where the source is.
Let's try.
I like the takeover method.
You like the what method? I'm sorry.
I like the takeover method of because if you take over their satellites, then we can beam out without being monitored.
There's also a bunch of dead satellites up there too, because the factions were wiped out. So.
Yeah.
Free real estate.
Yeah. Let's go with that.
Let's see, to take control of their satellites first, let's do a security daring difficulty of 3.
Okay. Would any of my focuses apply here? Let's see. Combat medicine, energy weapons, hand-to-hand combat, shipboard tactical systems, and
I think
small
shipboard
craft.
tactical systems, yeah. That'll work here. Are you going at this by yourself, or are you communicating what you're doing?
I'll communicate it. So it's like, Commander, I'm going to attempt to essentially hijack some of their satellites, probably ones that are no longer used by factions that have been wiped out, in order to try and triangulate where the source of this psychic field might be coming from.
I see. And what is the risk that someone on the ground will notice you doing this?
I would say it's reasonably high, given what communication we have with the away team. They might be monitoring us, but I am certainly going to try my damnedest to make sure that doesn't happen, sir.
Proceed.
Okay. So
yeah, here's a fun one. Let's do daring security. It's a difficulty of 3. You do have a focus 8, but you can also get an assist from the Hope using security communication.
Okay.
Yeah. No one's ever done that combination before.
I shall take a momentum for a 3rd die, so I can use cautious security.
Great talent.
And yeah.
And that's all you need. And the Hope has a good chance of giving you a success here. It's actually very good at this.
Yeah. I can get the Hope.
I'm not going to re-roll any of those. I'm not taking a risk.
So you say communication security?
Yeah.
Wow, that is kind of its power stat.
Yeah, it's really good at this.
I mean, communications medicine is better, but still, shooting for a 14.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah,
I got
you're
the successes I need. We're fine.
Yeah, so 8, you have managed to break into the communication systems. I'd say since Monty brought it up, that's a great thing to go off of. Let's say you're linked into the satellites of one of the destroyed factions.
And she's like, looks like I'm in, Commander. Working on triangulating the source now.
So this last roll to actually find where it is, that's going to be a reason medicine difficulty of 2.
Okie dokie. Reason medicine. Okay. Which isn't awful for her.
And let's say the hope can assist with a medicine communication.
The power stat.
And see, none of her focuses will apply in this case.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I'm going to pop her determination for a new value that I just gave her.
Okay.
Which is find the source, hostile or not.
Sounds good to me.
So that's 2 successes automatically, and let's see what happens on the actual roll. Oh boy, that's a complication. That's fun.
So I believe
Really?
So we do get a momentum from that, I think. So it was difficulty 2, or was it 3?
it was 3.
Okay, so we do succeed.
Oh wait, no, I'm sorry, it was a 2. I'm wrong. That was the one
so
before.
we
This
do
is a
get
2.
momentum.
Do you want me to keep that complication?
I feel like buying off the complication right now is a good choice.
Yeah. We'll give you the threat to buy off the complication, because this could be bad if we let it slide through.
Yeah, just a bit.
So you've narrowed down the psychic field to a mammal that is located in a large body of water connecting to the ocean. It's actually inside of a cave. It's a large mammal. It's not like human size. It's actually fairly large, but it looks to be aquatic.
Could we compare it to a whale, perhaps?
It does have similarities to a whale.
Is it the whale probe?
No, the whale probe is gigantic.
This is about the size of an earth whale. Yeah.
Oh boy. She'll kind of look over her readings. Commander, it seems that the psychic field is coming from a life form that I can only compare to an earth whale. And so sort of, I assume that the captain's chair will have, like some sort of arm rest screen. She'll send the data over.
I think
So
even
Thomp looks at it.
even in horsey mode, that Sophanth can still see these things.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine that like a pedestal or something comes up that she can just look at. No, she takes a look at this and says, "Try hailing this creature directly."
She just raises an eyebrow. She's like, "Aye, sir?" And she'll attempt to open a hailing frequency to this creature.
You don't get a response.
And it was a long shot. Tell me, 8, who is the most experienced Beta Z or telepath on the vessel?
Huh. Well, if I'm looking over our different looking over the roster here, I think the only Beta Z of significance we might have on board is Lieutenant Junior Grade Testra Trey. She's a counseling officer, Betazoid.
Then brought up to the bridge. I am curious to see if we cannot make telepathic contact with this creature.
On it, sir. And 8 will sort of send a text communication to Miss Testra Trade to please come up to the bridge.
And while that's happening, we're actually going to transition back to the Republic. So Arnold and Royelix, you guys have managed to make your way across the hull of the ship. And you now are on the forwardmost part of the saucer where the Klingon vessel had rammed itself into the ship. And you've kind of walked your way across the hull and down into one of the actual like hull breaches and down into a hallway. And you've moved down to the hallway to the point where you can see in front of you is like the remains of a Klingon vessel. And you can see like most of the ship, it was a Burrell class, is mostly intact. And there's actually a few access, basically breaches in that ship as well to enter it. But you're just standing on the outside of it. So actually still in the Republic.
Well, looks like we found it, Arnold.
Yes, would you like to go first, or should I?
Let's see. I'm gonna look at Arnold's sheet really quick. Okay. Considering I'm the commanding officer in this case, even though it's only 2 people, I believe I should go first. I don't know. I'm not used to the whole being in charge thing when it's not exactly an engineering. Jeez.
Well, then I will make the choice for you. And Arnold just sort of walks forward and, goes first.
Because I think it'll be fun, I'd like each of you to give me a control roll to be like just to reflect you getting through this scrap of a Klingon vessel to see how you've crawled in. Arnold, it's a difficulty 1. Royelix, a difficulty of 2.
Okay.
Well, I failed.
Control con isn't terrible.
Wow, 2 17s.
Arnold, you can succeed at cost if you'd like.
Yeah. I'll take a succeed at cost.
I'll steal a momentum for a 3rd die. And let us see what happens. Yeah. Why, God.
Royelix, you may also succeed at cost.
2 15s and a 17.
We kind of got to get through here. So, yeah, I'll succeed at cost.
As you guys make your way into the Klingon vessel, Arnold, you actually are pulling yourself up through a part of the breach in the Klingon ship, and you're making your way down, and you slip and fall. But as you're rolling, you manage to land. But you land, revealing just a little bit about your athletic capability. You land very smoothly. Royelix, you notice that Arnold seems to have managed to pull himself together very quickly, like really great. Like he probably should have landed on his face, but somehow he twisted at the last moment and landed almost like a superhero pose when he hit the deck, and he comes up just fine. You, however, as you pull yourself up, stumble and roll down and hit the deck very hard, and actually your faceplate cracks just a bit, and there's a bit of your oxygen leaking, and actually your suit immediately yells at you, emergency containment failure.
Shit. And he's gonna oh God, what can he, I don't think in a
Let me ask this then. Would you say we have an engineering toolkit on us, GM Josh?
Yeah, I would imagine.
There's a welder in there, is there not?
Yeah, and maybe just duct tape too.
I'm going to go with the duct tape because welding a helmet is worse than duct taping it. So Arnold picks out the duct tape and say, "Hold still, I will fix the leak."
Okay, and he's gonna hold it still as he can.
Literally going to wrap his head in duct tape.
So Royelix, your visibility has decreased, of course, because now most of the glass on your helmet is covered in tape. Your computer inside of your screen is yelling at you that, yeah, it's just like flex tape. Your computer is yelling at you that you have been exposed to radiation and you should probably leave immediately.
Quick question, Arnold. how well do you think you can handle yourself on your own?
Arnold sort of thinks for a moment, and I have a question for GM Josh. Is this the moment when it happens, or
I mean, that's up to you. You guys have not discovered anything of note on the Klingon ship yet. Rayelix, you're just in an access hallway. The distance for you to find something in this Klingon ship will be less than the distance to get back to safety, especially since you don't have a communication system that's functional from the radiation. So it's up to you. Do you ignore this warning and try to find something, or do you try to leave? You both know that this is a small ship. If there's anything, like, this ship is pretty intact. If you're going to find something, it's probably not going to take you too long.
then I think what Arnold says is, it's just a little bit of radiation. Don't be a baby.
If it's saying it's dangerous for me, I'm not sure I should be here much longer.
Ah, it says dangerous for very minor radiation. I'm sure you'll be fine. Besides, I'm sure it's just right down the corridor.
Do you have a family, Arnold?
I do, yes. I have 2 daughters.
How do you think your daughters would feel if you died from something that could be prevented?
Well, frankly, there's honestly nowhere for you to go, even if you do not come with me. Remember, communications are cut off. It is not logical to continue this course of argument. We are wasting time.
We're making it quick.
And then Arnold sort of helps Rayelix to his feet and very rapidly just sort of starts moving through the ship.
After a quick search through the Klingon vessel, you guys do come across, I'd say on the lower part of the Klingon ship, a control room, which looks like it's, amongst other things, controlling the main computer of the Klingon vessel, and perhaps also controlling systems like the cloak and the weapon system. But it does look fully intact.
And I think Arnold, without even prompting, is going to pull out his tricorder and try and interface with it.
Rayelix will also assist in that.
Rayelix, why don't you roll for me an engineering reason difficulty of 1.
Okay. Would I say that Arnold is assisting me here?
I don't think so. I don't think Arnold's going to assist you at this point.
Okay, interesting. Actually, oddly enough, I don't think I have a focus for... I don't have computers as a focus, so... Yeah, closest thing I probably have here is either power systems or maintenance, but I don't think that would work here since it's specifically computer.
I think emergency and maintenance, yeah, we can stretch it. I think that'll work.
Okay, neat. Then I won't take our last momentum, and I'll just roll. Cool. So we get 1 momentum from that.
So what you're able to do from this system is it's giving you a readout basically of the health of the ship, which is not very great because it rammed into another vessel. However, it does have the technical readout of the current status of the Klingon cloaking device. At least about 65% of it. It can tell you the technical schematics of the remaining systems, which is about, like I said, 65%. So you got a good look at it.
Looks like we found a possible schematic for a Klingon cloaking device, Arnold.
And Rayelix, you say that, you turn to Arnold. Arnold is no longer there, as in there's nobody else there with you. However, on the floor where Arnold once was, there is a pad.
He's gonna pick up the pad and read it.
It says captain's eyes only.
Oh. Okay. That's scary. Is there a way I can just download the schematics of that cloaking device onto essentially the Starfleet equivalent of like a thumb drive and get the hell out of there?
Yeah, I think so. With your tricorder, you could do like a memory dump of it.
Cool. Doing that, since I don't really know where Arnold went, he's gonna try his suit-to-suit communication. Arnold?
You just get static.
Silence. Yep.
And let's see. I guess my question: the door behind my token is what went out to the access corridor, correct?
Yeah, it's pretty much just one way.
I mean, we got what we came here for.
When you notice on the system's display, the thruster system of the Klingon ship were functional.
Am I able to access it and control it from here?
Yeah, the system's open. You could control. You could control it.
I guess my other question would be: do we know if the Klingon teleporters are functional?
It looks like the transporter systems are down.
Got it.
But if I may offer a suggestion, maybe the communication system is on, which would allow you to beam out.
Are the communication systems on this ship up?
They are a little spotty. What you could manage to do is, like, there are tugs in the area. You could basically link the system of the bird of prey to remotely turn on the transporters of one of the tugs to beam you out.
Okay. Yeah. I'm gonna do that. And then I would also like to send a quick communication to another one of the tugs to let's get Conal off the Republic, because he's probably having a panic attack about where his dad is right now since he can't communicate with him.
It should be fairly easy to get him off the Republic because
Yeah.
you know he's not in the radiation area. But for you, you're the one that's going to be a little more difficult because you have to link the computer system and then also execute the transport. Are you going to read this? Are you going to read this pad that you found?
I mean, it says captain's eyes only, but it could be some juicy information. No, I'm just going to keep it with me until IC2's on again, and I'm going to make absolutely sure that nobody else knows that I have it.
Okay, so let's do this transport task. It's going to be a difficulty of 4.
Good.
And this is going to be linking the computers together and then making the tug, transport you off of the Klingon ship to it.
Yeah. Let me think here. Since I'm working in conjunction with one of the tugs, could I pop a determination to use my value of teamwork makes the dream work?
You could use your determination. I think the better value is probably a working ship is a happy ship.
Okay, yeah, we'll go with that. And then trying to figure out if any of my focuses would apply here. Fabrication, jury rigging, maintenance, power systems, team dynamics, and warp core mechanics.
I think jury rigging. I think jury rigging
Okay,
would work, yeah.
I'll take jury rigging. And because it's a difficulty 4, I will take the last 2 momentum for a 3rd die. And Actually, never mind, because this isn't a repair. I was like, maybe I can use the jury rig talent, but nope. And yeah.
Yikes.
Oh, good.
That is 3
That's-
successes and a complication.
That's great. Good. Excellent.
So he transports to the pad like that character in the first motion picture where there are 2 people in one.
There's a scream and you turn into a ball of mush. No, we'll see where Royelix reappears in the next scene, but let's maybe go back to the surface of Hyralan 4. As you guys are walking back to the beam out site, the guards are still following you, and Sheila is at the head of the caravan, and she's walking you back.
And are we walking like down a street, like where there's buildings, or?
Yeah, there are areas where you could duck in. The difficulty here will be getting around the guards. Like, the people are watching you guys off and on, but the guards are watching you pretty closely. Sheila is mostly ignoring you.
All right, let me do another Madden drawing here. All right, so let's say that we've got 2 buildings, right? We've got building A and we have building B. And we are proceeding in this direction. So my thought is part of the holographic program display is holographic us will continue on in that direction for some time. But in reality, what we're going to do is we're going to slip into here behind a holographic wall that we can then beam out from behind without them noticing us.
I think in order to pull off that holographic switcheroo, you're going to need to modify the emitter slightly because it's just set up to, transmit the emergency diplomatic hologram.
Mhm.
Which
Montgomery,
is inside my body.
this is something Montgomery could pull off, I think.
All right, I think the EDH would communicate this plan to Montgomery.
This is not a impossible thing to do. It just does require someone pressing a few keys and working through it.
Which the keys are all in Linares' body.
I mean, if we put Linares up front and then the diplomatic hologram sits in the back and Tuzan sort of at the side, we can mostly block them from view as you just sort of reach a hand through Linares.
So what you're saying is Monty's really going to be pushing Linares' buttons.
Oh.
I'm taking 2 threat.
Now, am I gonna be like elbow deep in Linares when I do this? Like, where's
I mean-
the emitter?
A body isn't that thick. You'd probably be like,
I don't know. Some bodies are.
I mean, yeah, but Linares is not.
This has gone to a strange place.
Welcome to a strange new world.
Did you expect anything less of us, Josh?
No, I really didn't.
That's sad, defeated no.
We dodged your storyline for an entire season. We're doing this.
This is so true.
Yeah,
So-
I'll walk up behind Linares as I'm told, and we get all in position, and I'm just gonna be nice and close with him, and
All right, without further detail, this is going to be an engineering daring, I think, for you, Montgomery.
okay.
Actually, I think your strategy tactics focus would kind of apply here because you're doing a little bit of deception along with it. I think the difficulty is just going to be a 2.
Okay.
This is gonna go into even weirder territory.
Oh God.
Can I try to assist him in any way or no?
You can assist, but if you assist, the complication range is going to go up.
You know what? I don't have deception as a focus anymore, so I'm just gonna let Montgomery do his thing.
I will
You doing-
buy a dice for threat, I guess, because I don't see momentum on the board.
You don't have momentum.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, 2.
So your plan goes without a hitch. You guys dart into the alleyway, and the holographic you continue on. You do know Montgomery, that the range on this isn't going to be that great. So they're going to go maybe like a block, and then the holographic emitter is just going to cut out the holograms of you just because you've gone too far. It's just the limit.
Right.
On
I mean, this has to be a very quick thing where we duck in, we transport away, and then the hologram goes poof.
And as you duck in, Linaris, and we won't talk about what Montgomery's doing, but as you duck in, you hear a voice, the return of the warden's voice, and he says, "You have found me."
We have? How?
Your vessel has located me.
Interesting.
Is it safe to transport there?
It Are we safe here if we try to leave?
Once the Hyralans discover your deception, they will be angry.
Good to know. Thank you.
If your ship knows my location, you will be safe here. You will be safe at my location.
How so?
I can make it so that they can't find you.
I'll take your word on it. And as soon as that, I assume they don't respond.
Yeah, that's
He'll
the
just turn to the rest of the group. So I spoke with the warden again. They're going to be pissed if we leave and they find out about our deception.
Well, we knew that.
So why weren't we just honest with them?
Because we don't want them to see us transporting away.
They're trying to copy the technology.
I mean, they'd probably just see us anyway.
We're wasting time. Move forward.
And I'm going along with this, but according to the warden, if they're real, the ship has detected them, and apparently we should be safe there if we went to the source.
Our window to leave right now is closing. We need to go.
Yeah, we need to go.
Communicator open. Hope. Being
Savant.
emergency beam out.
Very good. Back to the ship, sir.
For the moment, yes.
All right. I push the button.
And moving back to the bridge. So just after this communication with the away team, I think this is around the time that Testra finds her way to the bridge.
And for those who are being introduced, Testra is just a female Betazoid. She is a counselor here on board the ship, and as she enters the bridge, she turns to Sophance, just like, "You needed me, sir?"
Yes. Are you feeling anything from the planet right now? I know that's an odd question to ask, but
Testra, you're feeling what
I'll
would be
see.
described as like a minor headache.
She sort of like, puts a hand to her temple. All I'm receiving is apparently a headache for some reason.
see. 8, can you put the location of the creature up on the view screen, please?
And 8 of 13 will do so.
And what you
I
can
was
tell, at least on the view screen, it
Okay.
looks like a cave, like maybe like a small, it's like a mountainy part of the coast. And then there's a cave system that leads down underground, or at least, beneath the water level. And inside this cave, there is a breathable atmosphere. There's a small part where the tide kind of comes in, and that's where it looks like this creature is.
And Sophant points at it and says, if possible, can you focus your attention there? We're trying to reach a creature that might be dwelling within.
I can certainly try, sir. and she'll attempt to sort of, envision that place in her mind and try to communicate with this creature.
Tester, why don't you give me medicine presence difficulty of 2, and I think persuasion would be a good focus here.
Okay, cool. I shall, and you said it was difficulty 2?
Yep, 2.
I shall give you a threat for a third die. And yeah. Okay, there are the 2 successes we need.
So, Tester, you manage to connect your mind to this creature. You feel it's a very strong psychic energy, and you have 2 choices here. You can allow it to take over your mind and communicate through you, or you can turn off the psychic connection or the telepathic connection. But those are your 2 choices. It's basically trying to take over your mind so it can speak through you.
I'll let it happen. And Josh's threat jumped from 8 to 17 for some reason. I'm kind of scared.
I don't think I should have that much. Let me clear those off. But while I'm doing that, I think about this time, Testra, as you're making that connection, let's put Montgomery and the rest of the away team back on the bridge. You guys would have walked on just as this starts to happen. I'm also going to throw Lenaris. Lenaris, you also walk up to the bridge.
Okay.
Commander, report.
Well, sir, I had Miss Trey here attempt contact with a creature we believe to be the source of the psychic potential of the planet.
Weird, Lenaris was just talking about connecting with him. Well, we made some, very interesting realizations while we're down there.
Do tell.
The leading faction that we were meeting with seems to have a very similar mindset to our lovely friends, the Borg. Always wanting to advance themselves, copying others' technology, although not assimilating it, but trying to copy it. They were able to identify the Maddie antimatter warp drive, our photon torpedoes, and were asking about our transporters just from looking at us.
They also seem to possess knowledge of positronic matrix.
So, if I follow your line of reasoning, sir, you wish to, what is it, cut the nip in the bud? Is something along those lines? Nip in the buds?
Yes.
I really should just get a handbook on human expressions.
I'll replicate you one sometime, but yes. And I need to go. I would like to have us back off to the edge of the system and need to make a call to the Commodore because the possibility of enacting a general order in which I am not enacting without authorization.
All right. Well, before we do that, sir, Miss Trey, have you made any progress?
And Tess returns to you guys, and she speaks in a very different voice. Actually, it's a bit deeper. And she says, I am the warden.
And Lunaris will sort of speak up, and it's just like, it's interesting to talk with you in person to an extent.
She turns to you, Lenaris. Indeed, this form of communication is not something I have done, not in a very long time.
I see.
Tell me, Warden, are you a god to these people? Are you symbiotic relationship with them? If I may be so bold, it seems like you might be at the crux of many things happening on this planet.
I am not a god, I am merely a visitor. Many years ago, my people discovered the Hyralans. We saw both their potential for greatness, which was only surpassed by their potential for great cruelty. I volunteered among my people to remain behind and try to shepherd them. After a great war, long ago, decimated the other life on this planet, I began to take a greater influence over them. The parasites in the water supply both sustains them physically and allows me to send them the psychic messages. Unfortunately, those messages have been my way of subtly being a voice of ethics and compassion for them. But unfortunately, as they've evolved and become more intelligent, my influence has waned. I am in my final days. I hope to look back on my time with them, but alas, I can only see it as a failure, not a success.
If I understand what you've just said correctly, will the Hyralans be able to survive without your influence? Meaning that once you are gone, will they continue to exist?
I believe without any outside influence, some will continue to exist and leave the planet. I have decided before I leave, before I expire, that I must enact the culling. I cannot allow the Hyralans to enter the galactic community. They would create untold suffering. It's a tragedy, but having seen their minds for so long, I believe there is no other way.
If
And
I may,
so far, oh, go ahead.
sorry, if I may be so bold, I believe that there are, well, there aren't many left. There are many people who, of the Hyralans, who believe in your voice still. And I think that, if I may inject personal feelings into this, there are some that are worth trying to save. General Order 24 is, if a bit cruel of a thing, but if there are some people worth saving, I think we should put the effort into it.
It is a noble sentiment, but as the responsibility of this planet belongs to me, I cannot allow them to leave this planet. Even if there are some that still believe in my voice, when my voice is gone, over time they will develop the ways of the rest of them, those who no longer hear me. I've seen it for a long time. As they become more intelligent, you have experienced the rate by which they learn. They become more and more vicious.
And I think that's due to how they were raised, but there's two that seem to stick out to me. There was
Mr. Linares, I believe you're needed in sickbay.
what was the name of the male one? The scientist that developed the warp technology.
Narv?
Their names are Sheila and Narv, and he walks out.
Warden, you said you were in your final days. Is this due to age? Is there something we could do to extend your life?
I have lived far longer than others of my species should. It is my end, and it is also something I look forward to. I tried contacting my people long ago, and I received no response.
I see. Is there a message you would wish us to bring to the greater galactic community on your behalf?
My only message would be that life has its time, its beginning and its end. The Hyralans have had their time. Now, for others in the galaxy to have their time, I would say that the Hyralans must end.
And of course, Safanth records that very dutifully, both, an audio recording and text recording on a pad. And then she just sort of turns to the captain and raises an eyebrow.
General Order 24 is what I was going to get permission to enact.
Honestly, sir, from the sounds of it, we need not do General Order 24 anymore. The situation will internally resolve itself.
That is true, but how soon will that happen?
I turn back to Trey.
And Testroy, the psychic connection breaks, and you shake your head and you clear your thoughts. You're left with a little bit of residual information from that connection. You know that the warden intends to enact this pretty quickly. He's going to do it pretty much right away. You do remember from that connection, there's a little bit of doubt in his mind if this culling, which is basically what he's doing, is he's activating those parasites in the water that they drink, and he's using that as a way to kill all of them. But he's not sure if it's going to kill the ones that don't hear his voice anymore. He's hoping it will, but he's not certain.
That's apparently this warden's culling involves activating microbes in the water that these individuals have drank and essentially turning them into parasites.
Well, I guess it is in ironic favor that I sent Linaris to sickbay then.
I guess it would be. Permission to leave for the bridge, Commander?
Turn to the captain.
Permission is granted. Zyvor, keep an eye on the status of the planet.
Of course, sir.
We'll keep an eye on it if things don't quite turn out as the warden is expecting. We can assist.
So we jump forward in time a little bit, Testra, after you leave. So Linaris, when you make your way to sickbay, you're able to remove the parasites that were in the water that you drank very easily. They're not anything to really be too concerned about, but they're how the warden makes the psychic connection. Now that you know you should eradicate them, it's a fairly easy process. And back on the bridge, 8, you detect on your sensors that all across the planet, the Hyralans just start dying. And, it's like billions of Hyralans just start dying all at once. And when this culling is complete, there are about 100 Hyralans left on one city on the planet that have not died. But you also lose the life signs of the warden when that happens.
And without saying anything, 8 of 13 just displays the statistics on the view screen.
Are those 100 from the original or from the main faction, or are they from a sub faction?
They're from the main faction.
Is one of them the Monarch? I'm not sure if we know names, but
it's very likely that one of them is the Monarch, yeah. Because the life signs are they're congregated like around the main center where the Monarch was located.
Well, they wanted to know about our photon torpedoes. Load launchers and fire.
TM turns to you. Captain, did I hear you right? You want to fire the photon torpedoes at them?
That is correct. General Order 24.
They are no longer a threat.
Are we sure?
We have effectively watched the end of a civilization. We did not attempt to intervene or help correct anything.
You would allow from what we have heard and you have experienced firsthand, you would allow such a species to potentially once again repopulate without any means of controlling them.
And they still have the advanced technology that they have. They are going to become a danger to the Federation, the Klingon Empire, and anyone else who lives in this region.
I did not know you had the foresight to see the future. While the main official body and government that we encountered could oppose a threat, the remaining 100, they have not decided. How would this be any different than wiping out the Klingons before they became a threat, or the Vulcans taking care of humanity while we were in World War III?
I don't particularly enjoy making this call, but sometimes you just have to make the calls that no one wants to. It would have been great to see some the great potential that could have come, but with even the 100 left, they can repopulate and continue to dominate and eventually destroy everything that we stand for as a federation.
I believe that is not your call to make. Their species is effectively done.
I don't think so.
TM turns. He says, Captain, I've got a salvo prepared that will certainly eradicate the rest of them.
Fire.
And without hesitation, he hits the button. And you see streaking across the sky the red photon torpedoes that enter the atmosphere. They explode just above the city, and it's basically vaporized. And 8, you can see on your scanners, there are no life signs at all on the planet.
Computer, enter into the log that General Order 24 was enacted at this time stamp.
The computer acknowledges.
And she'll just display, it will just display the statistics on the screen, sort of stands up from her station. I hope you had fun playing God, Captain. And she's going to walk off the bridge.
Yeah, Montgomery will stand up. He's like, I'm relieved myself of command. I'll be submitting my formal report to Starfleet Command. And he'll walk out.
And so Foth just sort of watches them all quietly go, then turns to the captain and says, You've known them longer than I have. Is this a common thing they do?
Not particularly, but I don't think they ever saw me being able to make that call. To be quite honest, I never thought I'd have to make that call.
Frankly,
But
I was ready to go over and push the button myself if you had willed it, sir.
honestly, Jarrus, I'm a little surprised you were willing to hit the button.
I wasn't sure, but if you were certain, then that's all I needed.
Unfortunately, with the advancements that they had made in the short time, even those last remaining 100, they still had a warp-capable ship, and they were bound and determined to advance themselves far beyond what we were capable even of currently as the Federation. Who's ready for a drink?
And because I find it funny, a certain Tholian speaks up, "Well, I'd quite like a rising sunset." And so Foth just sort of facepalms and says, we've been over this. I can't make it so it gets through your suit.
And with that, we're going to transition to the ready room. Tuzan, it's been a while since this has happened. You sent in your report to the Commodore, and she hasn't actually got back to you because she's got a lot going on. But you've managed to retrieve Ryelix and the rest of the team back from the recovery efforts with the damaged vessels from the attack on Starbase 234. And I imagine at this time there's a beep at your door.
Enter.
And Ryelix enters.
Captain.
Hello, Commander. What can I do for you?
Couple things. One, there's this, and he'll toss over the tricorder he used. On that tricorder are approximately 65% of a schematic for a Klingon cloaking device. And this was for your eyes only. And he'll hand the data pad over that he found when Arnold disappeared. And for whatever reason, sir, Arnold's gone. We were starting to scan the computer to download what we could of the schematics, and he disappeared. Is the best way to describe it.
Interesting. Oh, it sounds like you had a very eventful day as well.
Most certainly. Saw my son for the first time in a while, actually.
That must have been nice to be able to catch up.
It wasn't under the best of circumstances, but I could certainly say it was nice to see him again.
It's good to hear. It's always great to see kids, no matter how old they are. Can't wait till I can get back to Bejor and see the nieces and nephews.
Yes, I hope at some point I can actually see my sister again at some point. Oddly enough, she's in probably one of the oldest ships in Starfleet right now.
Oh,
It's the USS Zariel. It's a, frankly, refitted to hell and back crossfield class. Surprisingly held up very well.
that thing, I'm surprised it's not mothballed.
Frankly, sir, I'm surprised about that same thing.
Well, Commander, I'll look through this. Schematics for the cloaking device gets sent to the higher ups. Did you make a copy of it to keep on our local system?
I did.
Look into making it.
It could take a while with only 65% of the schematics, but we can try and make some kind of projection as to what the rest of it looks like.
It would be nice to have a secret ace up our sleeves.
I'll get with my engineering team and see what we can do.
Very well. Anything else you need to report?
One, Captain. If you can pull any strings, I would like to have my... It's probably a bad idea and sentimental on my part, but I'll leave it up to your call. I think I'd like my son on board this ship.
I figured that was going to be something that you asked. I'll see what kind of strings I can pull. I don't have many, but we'll see what I can do.
If you can't, I understand. Just with the kind of war that's going on, I would rather have him where I can at least
No,
get to him if need be.
I understand.
Thank you, Captain.
Thank you, Commander. These schematics are gonna come in handy. Dismiss.
I'm glad they will. And he will walk out of the ready room.
And we're going to close this session. ELH, if you can read to us what you left, the message you left for Tuzan.
Yeah, so Tuzan, when you enter in your command code, appearing on screen is a strange figure. They appear to be wearing what is some form of a helmet, but it's not like a metal helmet. It's like a biomimetic, almost metallic sort of covering over their head, if that makes any sense. And they speak in a feminine voice, and they say, "What I tell you now, I do with knowledge that it could very well break the temporal prime directive. However, it needs to be said. Based on what I have scanned, I have determined that the Klingons have acquired a cloaking device that is not from their time period. In fact, it is, shall we say, 300 years before its time. So I've decided to level the playing field. If you judge it worthy, and that you're in a dire enough situation, contained within this pad are plans to a transphasic torpedo that will allow you to easily track and destroy phase-cloaked vessels. However, should you judge that your scans of the cloaking device are something you wish to explore on your own, simply enact General Order 24 on this pad, as I'm sure you just have enacted on the planet of Hyralan. Which, speaking of, I did a little bit of digging before I went on this assignment. They would have become another Borg. I would not think too much of it. And then the screen goes dark.
Well, hindsight 2020 is always a good thing. I'm going to start pulling up the schematics on the torpedo.
And the torpedo schematics show a technology that is as equally advanced as what Anastasia was talking about for the cloak, like 100 or so, 200 years advanced, more advanced than anything that you have. It's certainly something that you can build. You'd have to give over to your engineers to find the practicality of like building at large scale, though. But with that, we pull outside the window of your ready room out to the Hope as she's gliding through space, and that is where we will end it this time. But before we call it quits entirely, let's do everybody's favorite thing.
No.
Yeah, I have lots and lots of threat. But remember, anyone else that had determination, you can use that also to get extra challenge dice to roll here.
All right, I still had my determination, so that's worth 2.
Yeah, I've got 2 as well.
This is gonna, even though he's technically a supporting character now, could I use Linaris' determination for the value of, I can't change history, but I can change what writes it?
For this one time, because Linaris was such a big part, I'll allow that.
Cool.
Any other determinations? I don't think so. Did Monty still have his?
Do we have him on? Do we have a Monty? I don't think he did.
Yeah, Monty, I don't think you used yours.
You're muted if you are talking.
He might have had to step away.
So anyway, that's actually quite a bit of momentum you guys can use. So that almost levels us out.
If it were me, I would spend all of it on the 7th Fleet.
Yeah,
Well,
I agree.
Are the 5th
Well-
and the 7th fleets together now?
The fifth fleet, I think, is still recovering at Starbase 234. They haven't made their way back to Starbase 23.
Mm-hmm.
We will start dealing with what the 5th fleet is doing next time, actually.
Gotcha. I mean, because I think it's, not to be, I'm going to be morbid. I think the 3rd fleet is basically screwed at this point.
Well, the third fleet's been retreating, so they're like probably close to here now. Because we lost Alderaan.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, they're probably more like right here and here.
Yeah, I would agree. The third fleet, I mean, we could dump everything we have and not be able
Not.
to.
Whereas
We
with the
can-
7th, we would have the 10 to their 8.
Right.
Yeah. And then if we did it through the third, we'd only have one more challenge die. So I think it's best to dump it in the 7th fleet.
Cut our losses on the third. Yep.
Yep.
So I have 9. I'm going to do 5 on Delta, and then 4 on Bravo.
I will push the button for the 7th.
I will
I'll
do it.
push the. Oh, never mind. You got
I'll
it.
do it for the third.
Yeah, that's a whole lot of nope.
No, what are you talking about? Okay, we can beat that. Hey!
Hey, look at that.
There we go. The 7th finally got a hit.